Okay, it is 9:35, so I'll call this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors to order. And please ask our county clerk to call the roll and establish a quorum and read the Metro Cable statement.
All right. Good morning, Supervisors Cerna.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Frost.
Here.
Hume.
Here.
Desmond.
Here.
And you have a quorum. This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and is webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, April 21st at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. The Board of Supervisors fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The Board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted or disconnected while making your comment. To make a comment in person, please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to clerk staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each agenda or off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak, and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. To make a comment by phone, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda or off-agenda item. Clerk staff will transfer each caller into the meeting, and you may be on hold for an extended period of time, and your patience is appreciated. You may also send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. And thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures.
Okay, thank you, Flo. I'd ask Supervisor Cerna to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Cerna. And so I just welcome everybody. We have pretty full chambers, and I appreciate all of you coming out this morning. We are going to do things a little differently starting today with off-agenda public comment. It's always a struggle to try to manage the agenda with the timed items that we have, because we have the county staff here for those who, and we need folks out there in the county doing the people's business, and we also sometimes bring in consultants and others on these timed matters. So we have to try to structure an agenda where you can have these matters timed and have a reasonable expectation that we'll be able to take up the matter during that time. So what I've decided to do, and we'll try it today, is we're going to break up the off-agenda public comment. We'll do 30 minutes right now. We'll start with that, and then any additional public comment we will take at the end of the time matters this afternoon. And at some point in the afternoon, I will discuss with our Madam Clerk about shutting off the queue for additional public commenters to sign up. So I've talked to our clerk. I think we already have more than enough in-person public commenters to take up that 30-minute time slot.
Currently, we have some time left. We have about 10 minutes.
Well, then let's start.
Spare.
Let's start with public comment then.
Okay. So the first person is Mr. Ryan Harris.
And also, as a reminder for folks, these comments, off-agenda public comments, these are just what it says. These are for items that are not otherwise listed on either the consent calendar or the timed calendar items. These are for any other item that the public wants to talk about for 2 minutes. So.
Got it. Changing the time frames again, continuing to find ways to silence us. That's all right. So
So yeah, go Kings. I'm sure you guys heard about the racial bias against a black celebrity in our county. And if you only knew that 4 of the 5 of you board members in this county were racist and support racism, or should I say at least you failed to admit that you don't, then I'm sure he'd be more understanding of why the things happened the way they did to him. Nonetheless, I'm sure you guys are enjoying your vacation, and I call it a vacation because let's be honest, you guys are just sitting up there relaxed while the rest of us are out here working. Rich, I'm going to start by you, start talking about your district, and before I do, I'm going to ask whoever's in control of the mics that they can mute Rich's microphone, because when I go back home and watch, I can hear you huffing and puffing on the microphone whenever I say something. So I don't know if it's a medical condition, or if it's just your allergic reaction to this black man standing before you. I'm sure they won't diagnose that. But the best cure for that would be to do your job. That's the only thing I'm here asking you to do. That's it. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Nonetheless, I'm talking about the potholes on Ethan Street today, and you would think a street named after your buddy you would keep clean because you do fight really hard to keep his record clean, Rich Desmond. Nonetheless, God's good because I chose to sit out there for a while, and he allowed me to witness 2 people's tire pop as they passed. So I went up to their car and gave them the Caltrans info on how to get their tires repaired, so that way they wouldn't have to come out of pocket. And that means that your negligence, Rich, is costing our county money. And that's money that could be paid to these deserving IHHS providers behind me. But you guys choose to waste it on foolish things instead of waste it on the people that's helping other people, the job that you guys all took an oath to do. Nonetheless, a citizen has since filled a major pothole, but there's still
Ryan,
several
could you
others.
wrap up your comments, please? You are at the end of your time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be back.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Caesar Seaborn. Sabron, thank you. Sabron, I'll remember that.
Mic check. Hello. My name is Caesar Sebron. I got cerebral palsy. I'm 37. And his phone is ringing. Where's your phone at? Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. All right. Hopefully it doesn't call again. All right. Go. Thank you. Before I moved out on my own, I was with his grandma. Give me 1 second. Let me turn this phone off right quick. The problems we have when we are not able to motorize ourselves. Okay. Before I moved out on my own, I was with my grandma and grandpa. At that time, my mom and grandma was my assistant worker. Now that I moved out on my own, I need more help. But whenever my helpers need more money to help me, almost everybody that would feed him or work for him was everyone that helps him, they help him. Tell me. I don't want to go, but I need more money to survive. don't know why it's so hard for the government to see this disability, disabled people that need help to I can't check it. People ask that. A. C. Act like it's not a big deal. I have. I asked. Oh, IHSS workers to make more money. That's all. That's all we're asking for. More money. That way, people that help with him ask, act, S, I, S, T, A. People stay with him. He's talking about retention rates, or retention. They need, if they got more money, they would stay with him. I wouldn't have to continuously hire people over and over and over. It's not easy to train people over and over and over again. Why don't you pass a bill? And that's it. That's all we're asking for. But pass a real bill.
Thank you.
And just off. So his staff called in today, and I literally was over here to speak earlier. I didn't get a chance to sign up, but I had to go all the way across town by Arden just to pick him up. And I'm one of his voices, and if he don't have a worker, he doesn't have a voice. So that's why I felt it was more important to take my time to go get him so he can talk. And these are just things that we're all eventually going to have to need. So please take it within your heart and then do what you feel is the most right and balance that budget so workers don't have to quit on him. And it breaks his heart every time that people have to move on. And I've been hanging on an extra year just because. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Margot Schulter. Margaret Schulter.
So Flo, we have this is all we have for in-person. So we can shut off the in-person queue for off-agenda comment.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
And
let's shut that off
We'll
right
shut
now.
the phone down too.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to, I'm not sure if she stepped out. Jamie Knutson. Oh, let me bring that down.
Good morning again, and I'm back. My name is Jamie Knutson. I am an IHSS provider who serves non-family members. I humbly contribute my share to make a difference in people's lives. I want to stand by this government program and see it succeed. According to recent statistics, 75% of IHSS providers report being underpaid for the work they do. On top of that, 1 in 5 caregivers say they may leave the industry due to low wages. Furthermore, recent data shows that more than 2.1 million authorized care hours go unused every year in Sacramento County, indicating a lack of providers for the elderly and disabled who desperately need them. During my time in AmeriCorps, I saw how much of an impact care has to some of our most endangered communities. I chose to volunteer and give aid wherever I could. AmeriCorps made me only certain that my number one goal in life is to help people. Us caregivers are trying to be a solution for our community's most endangered, but we lack the respect of being paid a sustainable wage. Caregivers who take the risk of being exposed to bipolar episodes, racism, discrimination, infections, accidents, sexual harassment, and abuse, just to get the job done for people's families. Would you like to do this work for $16.50? Would you feel as though you are being valued, doing things
have 5
nobody else
seconds.
wants to do? So I ask you, please give us $20 minimum per hour. It's not enough, really, but it will go a long way to
Thank you.
attract more
Thank you.
caregivers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call Margot Scholter one more time. Okay, we're going to remove her from the queue, and we'll go to Lourdes Montiel. Did I say that right?
Good morning. My name is Lourdes Montiel. I am currently an IHSS home care provider here in Sacramento County. I have a long history here with the public authority. I was one of the first 13 public authority, well, before the PA, home care workers that began growing, recruiting workers here in Sacramento County. We had the difficulty at first trying to convey our message to the Board of Supervisors, to the city leaders, and those that were in our path so that we can move forward. So I've been providing home care services in San Joaquin County, Yolo County, Sacramento County for the past 55 years. This is before public authority became public authority. We were known as domestic chore workers. But every time we walked into somebody's home, it was immediately medicating that client. And we had to put aside what was supposed to have been done as far as helping to clean the house. So now we've advanced from being chore workers to IHSS home care providers. So in the past, when we started growing here in Sacramento County, SEIU International kind of came close and kind of gave us some guidance. Once they saw that we were getting a stronghold, then Local 250 came in and they took us under their umbrella. So here I am today,
Could you wrap up
55
your
years
comments,
later.
please? You're at your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joy Okoro.
Hello, how are you? Hi, I'm here on behalf of SEU because I just feel, well, for me personally, 2021 was difficult for me because my son had brain meningitis that affected his brain. So in 2021, he became G-tube dependent. He doesn't walk, talk, see, or do anything. He's wheelchair all the time. And I had to leave everything I was doing, my work, because of him and care for him. And now I left my work, I was in LA. I've realized that I was not getting basically, I cannot afford living in Los Angeles with whatever the county is paying. And I cannot care for him and 2 other children based on minimum wage. No, it's absolutely impossible in California. And I had to move down to Sacramento, and I still can't afford taking care of 3 children in minimum wage because I can't go back to work because he's G2 dependent. So I'm pleading on behalf of all the people here that are caring for people, their loved ones, for an increase, better benefits, because a lot of us are on the verge of homelessness because of this. So you guys just think about if you guys are in the same situation as us and how you guys will cope with that situation. I have to care for my son and 2 other kids on minimum wage. I can't even leave out of California because my insurance doesn't allow it. Because I went through cancer treatment, and it's hard to get insured when you're going through cancer treatment. So just think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Christine Rich.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you again. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think we got off on the wrong foot when I met you the first time. I've been in Sacramento since 1997. I've worked for Sacramento County in the juvenile court schools. I've worked for IHSS. I've worked for Farmers Rice. And I'm currently an in-home care provider, not through an industry, because the industries that have popped up in our community with regard to home care are charging $26 an hour to the clients that can afford it. And then that leaves the IHSS personnel and staff having to compete against that kind of a service. And what I'd like to say today is actually kind of directed at my fellow care providers, where I understand everybody wants a living wage and to raise the rate to $20 an hour. I think what we're ignoring is the disinformation that we've all been exposed to the last 3 years with regard to public health. I think everybody can see the Anthem printout on the screen here, and it shows the payouts that were given to people who accepted the C19 injection. And when I was an SEIU member, I was receiving emails asking for my pledge to take a shot. And I've been organic since 2013. It's important to my health and well-being that I stay organic. And when I was being bullied to pledge to take a shot, I couldn't understand why all these people who advocate for handicapped individuals in wheelchairs were promoting a risky injection that could further their handicap. So I don't think that the SEIU members are focusing their requests for an increase on the right industry or the right body of people. I believe that we should be suing Anthem, and we should be suing UC Davis, and we should be suing Kaiser and Sutter, because none of them advocated for any of our clients the last 3 years, none of them. And I think you guys were caught in a pickle because of the money. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm upset about it, and I'm not leaving because I'm upset. I'm leaving because my client's at home.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could transfer the first caller.
How many callers do we have in the queue?
We have 2.
Okay, well, then let's close the queue, and we're able to get through all the off-agenda public comment in the morning, so that's great.
Mm-hmm. There might be 3. Hi, caller. Please start with your comments, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm here to ask y'all to do better. In the last few weeks, I've seen so much state-sanctioned violence. I saw the police bloody a disabled, unhoused man and break his nose. I saw police slam a queer youth's face into the ground while protecting a Nazi. The community is under attack, and care workers aren't getting paid enough to feed and house themselves. Your job as elected officials is to listen to your people and use your power to allocate the resources that the people need. I know that recently the time period for off-agenda public comment has been shortened to 30 minutes, and anyone who has not spoken yet now must wait until the end of the meeting to speak. With 2 minutes per person, that allows only 15 people to speak first, and anyone else who wants to be heard must abandon whatever it is they need to do on a Tuesday. Maybe it's school, work, picking up their kids, whatever, to just have 2 minutes of your time to beg you for your help. A lot of people who need extra care are disabled or work extra jobs or have too much on their plate, and taking time out of their Tuesday to come here and advocate their needs is virtually inaccessible. To ask a person to hold down this space for up to 6 hours might not seem like much to you, but it is a lot for people who are disabled, for people who are unhoused, for people who have kids, who have a job. So are 15 people and 2 minutes supposed to represent all of your constituents? Are these 15 people supposed to divide the county and then go out into the field to find out what the people need and bring it here to present it to you in 2 minutes? If so, you should be paying people to come here and enlighten you with their perspective and the labor it takes to be here. And you should stop continuing to fund the violence that is sweeps, that is cops in riot gear, that is underpaid labor. Your attempt to put our anger because of your violence into tinier and tinier boxes.
Caller, could you wrap
won't
up your
make us
comments,
smaller.
please?
The box is breaking, and there's nothing you can do to stop it now unless you
Okay,
start doing better right now.
thank you for your call. Thank you. Okay, if you could transfer the next caller. Hi, caller. Please start with your comments. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jared. I stand in solidarity with the in-home health services workers here. In October of 2021, my mother fell ill with West Nile virus and was hospitalized for 5 months. She was on a ventilator and suffered extensive nerve damage. I'm grateful for her recovery, but it took a long time to relearn to walk. I want to emphasize that her experience was caused by a mosquito bite in this area. A single bite from a mosquito drastically changed her life. We were very privileged to have support from family, and she had decent insurance through work. Most Sacramentans aren't as privileged. I can definitely see how one accident can affect those who are more vulnerable. What you're seeing here is a class issue. I live near UCD Medical Center, and so often I see someone in a wheelchair on Stockton Boulevard with fresh hospital bracelets and no home, nowhere to go. There are over 20,000 homeless people in Sacramento County, and I think there are many times more living on the edge of losing their homes. And what kind of treatment do they get from the county once they are living outside in a tent? What services does the county provide? What happens when you call 211? It's usually nothing because there's wait lists for all services. The best thing the county can do is provide services to the encampments. But the horrific sweeps of encampments makes it impossible for those providers to access their clients. I demand that you stop the sweeps, and I demand that you raise the wages of the IHHS workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and that concludes the callers for off agenda.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close the queue. And so just so the members of the public are clear, the whole purpose for this new, I think, protocol is so if we had more speakers signed up for public comment, we would just take 30 minutes, and if we didn't get to you by then, we would then take you in the afternoon. So people wouldn't have to sit here all day. You would still remain in the queue. But today we're able to get through everybody within 30 minutes. So so bear with us as we try to figure out the best way to approach this, but this worked well this morning. So thank you for your patience. And with that, we will move on to our consent calendar.
For your consent items 2 through 26, I have a couple of notes. For item 8, adopt a salary equity adjustment for members of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, adjust the car allowance, and amend Ordinance 1544 relating to compensation. You're introducing the ordinance waiving for full reading and continuing to May 23rd for adoption. For item number 20, you're adopting an ordinance amending Chapter 6.99.268 of the Sacramento County Code to update the annual renewal requirement on a Class A cottage food operation registration. Waive full reading, and this was continued. You waived reading, and this was continued for March 28th.
Okay, those are the only notes?
That's it.
Flo, for
That
consent?
concludes my notes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll turn to my colleagues to see if any supervisor has a comment or a question about a consent item. Supervisor Frost.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to pull item, not pull, but I guess pull item 8 for comments. And
Okay, and you already read?
I already read that.
It's already been read into the record, so go ahead, Supervisor Frost.
okay, this is an item regarding the increase for the Board of Supervisors, increase in pay for the Board of Supervisors. And when I initially looked at this, I felt like, oh, I can't support that. And then I gave it, I've gone back and forth, honestly, because I can see that there are some good rationale for taking a look at our board salaries. It's come to my attention that it's been 32 years since the board has actually reviewed their salary. And in fact, I guess in 1991, this position was considered part-time. I want to tell everyone it's definitely not part-time, it's full-time. We work on 29 boards. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that there are more than one members of this board who took a pay cut to serve as a public servant. And all of us, I know, are out all day and into the evening and on weekends. So we don't get a lot of time off. So it's a big job. There's a part of me that wants to support this item, but I'm just not going to be able to, because I think, given the fact that many of my constituents are suffering from increased, inflation and increased prices, it's difficult to give myself a raise at the same time others are suffering. So I'm going to go on record as a no vote on 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Frost. Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So since Supervisor Frost has pulled this for comment, I just wanted to ask a question of our county exec as to what was the genesis of placing this on the agenda.
Excuse me. Thank you, Supervisor Cerna. So I want to be perfectly clear that this was a staff-driven item to come to the board. We routinely look at equity adjustments for all county employees and recognized that we had not done that for board members since 1991. So as we were doing salary surveys, which is what we call when we compare our salaries to other counties, we decided to include board members in a salary survey as well. And that salary survey indicated that you all were far below the median, which is what we use when we're looking at all county employees, is if we want county employees to be at or a little bit above the median, and you were well below, and this gets you a little bit above.
So just to be clear, not a single member of this board came to you or any of your staff requesting a pay adjustment? That is absolutely true. Not a single one of you brought this to our attention. In fact, most of you were surprised that we brought it. Right. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Cerna. I don't see any other supervisors in the queue. Do we have public comment on consent items?
We do have a public comment for item number 9, and they're here in chambers. Alexandria Russell.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good energy to everyone in the room. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the Nisean and the Maidu and the Miwok people. My name is Alexandria Russell. I'm White Mountain Apache. I'm an elder in this beautiful county of Sacramento. I'm also a 32-year Sacramento employee of the county of Sacramento. I'm a chair of the Native American Caucus as well. We act as advisor to our directors on the need of the Native people that we serve. But most important, I'm here to talk about the holiday change of Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day. I was raised that it takes 7 generations of my people to heal. My grandchildren are that 7th generation that's healing. As Native people, we never went away. We're still standing. How important this holiday change would be for the next generation. I'm not here to give a history class lecture, but it's now that we need the change, and I ask that you approve this change to change the second holiday in October to Indigenous People Day. I wish my ancestors, my parents, my grandparents were here to see that we have changed, that we are no longer the same 100 years ago. California County, they recognized Indigenous People Day, and I think it's so important with a very diverse community that we have of Native and Indigenous people. The time is now. Again, I send good energy to everyone. It's an honor to be here. Aho.
Thank you. And I suspect very soon you're going to see a unanimous vote to approve this as well. So any further public comment?
We do not have any other comments.
Okay, so we have the note from Supervisor Frost on item 8, and I'd entertain a motion at this point for the consent.
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that they were Skyping me. We have one caller on item 9.
Okay.
They had pulled him out of the queue, so I didn't see that. If you could transfer the caller. Hi, caller. Please start with your comments. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, what's the agenda numbers? Just so I make sure I'm on the right one.
Item 9.
That's about the board getting more pay?
No, that's for item 8.
Oh, okay.
If you want to speak for item 8, you can speak for item 8.
Yeah, I don't even know how Aunt Edwards could research that, given people have been coming to you guys continually who clean feces for a living and who lift people up for a living, and they can't even get $20, yet the board gets far more than $20, not to include the benefits, and Aunt Edwards is over here spending taxpayer money to research that? Like, can they at least do their part of the job? And I noticed Aunt Edwards only comes in after Ryan leaves now, which is very funny and ironic. But nonetheless, like, how are you able to research the highest paying people of the county getting paid more when the lowest paid people of the county ain't getting paid nothing? And you don't got time to look into how to balance that around, but you're our county executive officer? This is how you messed up the DHA department. And now you're going to come over here and make it worse. I don't, the logic behind that just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Maybe, can any of you answer how she has the time to research that? I get you guys are below the threshold, but maybe you guys are doing less work than the other people. Did you ever think about that? Maybe you guys aren't working hard as the other counties. Because again, I'm looking out the window right now, Rich Desmond, at a bunch of graffiti. I'm looking out the window at a bunch of potholes. And this is a community, again, right around the corner from the church where the guy killed his 3 daughters and killed himself and killed their caretaker. And you were like, oh, this neighborhood needs more. This neighborhood, something's got to happen. But what's going to happen, Rich Desmond? You going to line your pockets some more? Is that what you want to happen?
Hi, if you could wrap up your comments, you're right at the end.
Okay, that's all right. I'll wrap him up. If he could wrap up his title.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Okay, and that concludes the callers.
Okay. So I'd look for a motion on the consent calendar.
Move consent.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Please vote. And let the record reflect that, sorry, Madam Clerk.
Unanimous vote, and let the record reflect that Supervisor Frost voted no on item number 8, and we have recorded that. Okay.
Moving on to item 27.
Item 27, you are acting as the Board of Supervisors and the Housing Authority of the County of Sacramento. Approval of application for home key funds from the State Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $17 million and conditional loan commitment with Sacramento Madison Avenue LP Danco Communities or related entity in the amount of $17,320,000 for the Madison Sacramento Studios project located at 4317 Madison Avenue.
Good morning, Board. Christine Weicker with Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. And before I begin my presentation, I would ask that a video highlighting the Home Key program and projects here in Sacramento be shared with the Board.
So a little bit about myself. I did grow up out here in Sacramento my whole life. I am a survivor of sex trafficking. I've been unhoused for about 6 to 7 years before this program. Obtaining housing has been a very big goal for me and my family. I do have a 12-year-old beautiful daughter that keeps me level-headed and keeps me fighting and just staying strong. I used to just be on edge all the time. Having PTSD doesn't help that very much either. Just being here has been able to help my mental health, help be a better mother, and so honestly that just being able to teach me that I don't have to live in survivor mode anymore. Just knowing that my daughter doesn't have to live the same cycle of life that I had to live. Knowing that, hey, I don't have to worry about, do I have to figure out where I'm gonna eat today, or am I gonna have somewhere safe to be with my kid? Here, I can go in, lock my door, and just feel really safe here. Being here, we have services, resident services, which is Jamboree. They do help us a lot. Well, I wanna be a child advocate for sex trafficking survivors. So like I said, being here, I am going back to get my high school diploma so that I can accomplish, my dreams. You guys have given me a chance to restart my life and to become the person that I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be somebody that my daughter can look up to.
All right, thank you. As illustrated in the video, Sacramento, the state's Home Key program provides funds to projects that can quickly provide housing for those experiencing homelessness. This is the third year the state has made Home Key funds available, and to date, SHRA has successfully received funding for 3 motel conversions through the program, and the Board of Supervisors has approved Mental Health Services Act, or MHSA funds for all 3 projects. In Home Key Round 1, SHRA, in partnership with Mercy Housing, received funding for the Launcha project, located in the city of Sacramento, which provides 100 permanent supportive housing units for homeless individuals. In Round 2, we received funding for 2 additional projects in the city, Central Sacramento Studios, developed in partnership with Danco Communities. We have 93 units for homeless individuals at that project, and Vista Nueva, which was highlighted by the speaker in the video, was developed in partnership with Jamboree Housing, and will have 117 units for families, and both projects are nearing completion. The Round 3 Home Key Notice of Funding Availability was issued on March 29th, with a statewide allocation of $736 million. Sacramento's regional allocation is $37 million. This year, we are very excited to apply for 2 projects located in the unincorporated county of Sacramento and a third located in the city. This report recommends approval of the Home Key application for $17 million, plus an additional $17.3 million, consisting of home ARP, and MHSA funds to serve as a match. The proposed project, Madison Square Studios, will convert the Super 8 motel located on Madison Avenue near Interstate 80 into 118 studio units of permanent supportive housing for homeless individuals. In addition, there'll be 1 manager's unit. The developer is Danco Communities, and as mentioned previously, Danco is currently working with SHRA on another Home Key project, and they have developed affordable housing and Home Key projects throughout California. Danco will also serve as the property manager for the development. Lutheran Social Service will provide resident services on site. The project will have 24/7 desk coverage and 4 full-time case managers available to assist residents. One of the case managers will be provided by the County of Sacramento. In addition, the project is anticipated to receive project-based vouchers. A full rehabilitation of the interior and exterior will be undertaken, with kitchenettes added to all units and an elevator and laundry room added as well. The property will be completely fenced and gated. Amenities on site will include a community room, community kitchen, case management offices, swimming pool, basketball courts, pickleball court, a dog area, and outdoor gazebos and benches. A community meeting regarding the project was hosted by Supervisor Desmond last week, and neighbors in attendance had questions but were supportive of the project. Application for Home Key funds will be accepted in late April, and award released in late summer, and construction improvements will commence shortly thereafter, and per Home Key requirements must be complete within 12 months. In conclusion, staff is recommending approval of the Home Key application and funding for the Madison Square Studios, and we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Christine. I'll have some comments, but first I'll turn it to Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Christine, first of all, thank you for SHRA's continued emphasis and support of Home Key. I've seen it work in the district I represent, where you drive by a hotel and it looks like a hotel. And really does not have impacts in the community nearly to the degree that homeless folks do, but also is helping people get better who are inside those doors. And you know, we're beyond the days of warehousing people to get them out of sight and off the street. We're actually about helping people to stabilize them and get them into a more permanent setting. So I really want to thank yourself, Lachelle, for really making this program a priority. I guess I have a couple of questions. One question, one comment. not a cheap program. I mean, not just from our perspective, but from the state of California's perspective. With the pending budget difficulties the state's facing, are we seeing kind of a cliff here, and this is likely to be the last round?
Well, I can tell you this round is the allocation was about half of the dollars available last round, so we have seen a decrease. I have not heard that there will be a fourth round of home key. I don't believe it was in the governor's budget, but I do know it's been a very successful program, so hopefully that will be revisited.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Edwards, at some point, I'd like to, after a couple of years of these things getting up and going and or sooner, whatever, you and your staff think is most appropriate, is that we look at and, kind of put it up against, what is the success of these programs? What are the outcomes? I'd really like to know outcomes. Down to number of people served, types of services served, funding per person, funding per door, all of those types of typical questions, and really take a look. But when we do that, I want to make sure, because we don't always capture all of the avoided costs, that we somehow look at not only what we're spending here and what the outcomes are, but also what we're not spending in cleaning up the parkway, what we're not spending. I know that's really difficult to quantify on a person-by-person basis, but you understand what I'm getting at.
Yes, I understand completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kennedy. Those are great points, because I think we could do a much better job quantifying the savings that we as a county would see by doing more of these. And I know it is concerning with some dark clouds in the future in terms of this funding from what we know right now with the governor's budget, but hopefully through advocacy of all of us and at the CSAC level and the League of Cities. I mean, there's a lot of advocacy for continuing funding for these projects. But for today, I'm just very, very excited, and I want to thank you. And I apologize to you and Lachelle. I did not give you a shout out yesterday at the summit. After I sat down, I realized that I should have recognized Christine and Lachelle, because you have been talking with me about this since I took office. Both these projects. As we narrowed it down to which hotels, and I just think that we had that community meeting last week, and it was not well attended, which is an unfortunate a commentary on some of these unincorporated communities, and you don't get as much civic engagement as we would like. But it was a very good discussion, and I appreciate you being there. And I think it's Chris, right, from Danco was there, so I appreciate you taking some of those questions, and the community really deserves that level of engagement to find out how these are going to be run. I think the great thing about this project in particular at that hotel is a source of a lot of law enforcement issues, has been for several years. It's a major problem to the community, and this is going to be a dramatic improvement, not only in terms of people's lives and providing us with some of the throughput that we talk about a lot in our homelessness response. Getting people immediately off the street into a shelter or a safe stay community is step one. Then we need to get them into a permanent situation, and that's what this provides us. Not nearly enough, but this is going to be great for people experiencing homelessness and for the community. I thoroughly believe that, and I know that we will maintain that ongoing, engagement with the community, because I think that's really, really crucial as well for all these projects. So thank you, and I'm extremely excited to support this, and now have a little bit of bragging rights for my tenure to have one of these projects and the very next agenda item in my district. So thank you. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, well then I will move approval of the staff recommendation.
Unanimous vote. For item 28, this is the approval of application for home key funds from the State Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $20,020,000 in conditional loan and grant commitment with 1413 Howe LP, John Stewart Company, Hope Cooperative, in the amount of $20,420,000 for the Arden Star project located at 1413 Howe Avenue. Authorize an allocation of $5 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding for the Arden Star project. Authorize the Director of General Services to enter into an agreement associated with the implementation of the approved funding allocation.
So good morning, Christine Wackert again with SHRA. This report recommends approval of an application of $20 million in home key funds and $20.4 million in matching funds for the Arden Star Home Key project. Local funds consist of home, CDBG, American Rescue Plan Act, and permanent local housing allocation and MHSA funds. The proposed Arden Star project will convert the motel located on Howe Avenue near Hurley Way into 71 studios, 51 bedrooms, and 2 managers' units for 124 units of permanent supportive housing for homeless seniors. The project, again, will have 24/7 desk coverage and 5 full-time case managers for the residents. 2 of the case managers will be provided by the county. 15 units will be occupied by clients referred by the county's Adult Protective Services Department. In addition, project-based vouchers are anticipated to be awarded to this project. John Stewart Company will be the developer and serve as the property manager. Hope Cooperative will provide resident services. And SHRA has taken several successful projects to implemented them together with John Stewart and Hope Cooperative. Arden Star was recently renovated, but additional interior and exterior rehabilitation is needed, and a new elevator will be added. The site will be gated and fenced. Amenities for the senior project will include a lounge, outdoor gathering area, a pet area, laundry facilities, exercise room, community room with kitchen, and case management offices. As with the previous project, a community meeting was hosted by Chairs Desmond regarding the development, and the response was generally supportive. Again, applications will be submitted later this month with award in about 3 months, and construction of improvements will commence shortly thereafter, and work should be completed within 12 months. And that concludes my presentation, and we're available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Again, Christine, at the risk of being redundant, thank you for this as well. This is also very exciting, and it was interesting. The community meeting was much better attended, and I know Aaron Johansson, Hope Cooperative, will be handling all the support services here. And is someone from John Stewart here? Oh, okay. So thank you for participating in the community meeting. I think there was a lot of support for the siting there. Certainly a lot of support for, I think, the model. There was a little trepidation about the costs, which to me goes back to Supervisor Kennedy's comments about us doing a better job quantifying really the savings that we get by having more of these projects. So thank you for working with my office and really designing, I think, a model and a population that really fits, I think, the community and the needs of the community, especially the more older chronic homeless, in the surrounding community, and certainly in our homelessness, unsheltered homelessness population at large. Do we have any public comment on this? We don't.
We do not.
Well, with that, then I will move approval again of the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, Christine.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, moving on to item 29.
Okay, now you are acting as the Board of Supervisors. This is authorization to utilize the construction manager at-risk delivery method for the Sacramento International Airport pedestrian walkaway project and issue a request for qualifications for the provision of the services. The environmental document is an addendum to the Sacramento International Airport Master Plan Environmental Impact Report.
Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Cindy Nickel, Director of Airports, and I'm joined today by TJ Chen, who's my Deputy Director for Planning and Development. As I mentioned to you on March 28th when I came and you awarded the design contract for the pedestrian walkway, for the Concourse B expansion, and for the Terminal A expansion, we discussed the fact that the pedestrian walkway is the first of the 6 large projects that we'll be delivering as part of the $1.3 billion SMF Forward program. The pedestrian walkway will serve 2 key purposes. The first is to provide redundancy for those instances when the automated people mover, or APM, is down. That is only about 2 to 3% of the time. What we really need it for is the second purpose, which is to add capacity. Sometimes people have to wait for 2 or 3 cars to come before they, can get on and get over to the cross the roads. So, as I mentioned also in March, The county almost exclusively uses the sequential design, bid, build process, which takes time and doesn't entail collaboration between the A&E design firm and the construction manager. We're requesting your approval to do this project by construction manager at risk, which is called CMAR for short. And what that does in this diagram you can see is that during the design phase, the CMAR provides pre-construction services and coordinates with the design company regarding constructability and other issues, and then proceeds into the construction phase, at which point the design firm also provides support to the contractor. This helps us deliver the project more quickly and just provides a better project. A couple things I want to mention is that we're going to be providing this through two what are called guaranteed maximum price packages. The first will be for long lead items, the conveyance items that we have to order, escalators, elevators, pedestrian walkways, and such. Then we'll come back for everything else. We'll come back to the board for that, and we'll come back to the board for the GMP for everything else. Once we've negotiated each guaranteed maximum price, basically the CMAR takes the risk that they will be able to deliver for that price. So it really helps us transfer the risk over to them. This slide highlights some of the key milestones of the project, and rather than belabor them, you've seen all this. What I wanted to mention is that pursuant to your approval today to issue the RFQ, we'll return to the board to award the CMAR contract. And by the way, we expect to complete the project by the end of 2025. Here you can see both the project budget and the funding sources. The budget is comprised of $21 million for the design, soft costs, and internal orders, $105 million for the CMAR pre-construction and construction services, and then a $15 million allowance for escalation, which is about 14% of the CMAR amount. The funding will be solely from sources that are not enterprise, that are enterprise fund sources. No general fund monies will be used for this. And I just wanted to brag a little bit here. TJ and his staff have been stellar in getting funding from the FAA, from the bipartisan infrastructure law. In addition to the formula grants of $18 million, we won it's $11.7 million grant, competitive grant, and many of my airport colleagues are mad at us. Okay, so that's a good thing. We'll also be using passenger facility charge revenue, and we're going to try a newly available source, which is low-interest loans from the federal government, from the FAA, called Transportation Infrastructure Financing and Investment Act, TIFIA. I know we've done WIFIA, you guys might have heard of that, and there are other forms, but we likely will be the first airport to do that. And our rate would be half of the Treasury rate, which is really great. At the end of the day, once we've maximized all the grants and all the other sources, we issue bonds for what's remaining, and that would be about $45 million. On this slide, north is...
Excuse me, Cindy.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Did you? I could wait to the end of the presentation.
Okay. On this slide, north is, let me see, to the north. North is to the top. The pedestrian walkway is shown in the blue box in the middle, and it runs parallel to the existing automated people mover, APM, connecting Terminal B to Concourse B. As I've mentioned, this 12-year-old APM operates 98, 99% of the time, but when it goes down, people have to walk on the platform between the rails that gets increasingly narrow and steep and exceeds ADA standards. So this is a key reason why we want to do this project first. The other, as I mentioned earlier, is we need the walkway for capacity, additional capacity. There are a lot of people who just want to walk and they don't want to wait for 2 or 3 cars. So this will help with that. Here you can see in greater detail how the pedestrian walkway will connect Terminal B to Concourse B, running parallel to the APM. Here in this map, north is to the left. Just another diagram. So I had shown you this in March, but since the conceptual and schematic designs for the pedestrian walkway have been completed, we can give you a sense of what it would look like. There will be a significant change in levels from the terminal B, where it's at the third level, down to the second level in concourse B. And what we're going to have is a vertical circulation hub there that will, just after you cross Lindbergh Drive. So on the lower right, you can see what that hub would look like with the elevators, escalators, and stairs. The level portions of the walkway will have moving sidewalks on the edges, along the sides of the pedestrian walkway. So it's going to be fully ADA compliant, and we will be working with DAC to coordinate on making sure that we're meeting ADA requirements. I wanted to thank TJ and his staff in planning and development for all their hard work getting to this exciting point on this project. Today, we request that the board approve the release of the request for qualifications for the CMAR contractor for the pedestrian walkway, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Cindy. So now when I use an escalator, I'll say it's a vertical circulation hub, wherever I am. That's Supervisor
Or if you call it
Cerna.
conveyance system.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you, Cindy, for the presentation. And you and I have had multiple conversations about the project, and both been involved in some of the press matters around SMF Forward. So do have some questions. As far as the CMAR construct of how this will be contracted, in terms of the risk limitation to the county, am I to understand that if the contractor, it would be a design build, correct?
It's not design build, it's another form of project delivery.
Okay.
Design build's a little different.
Okay, so.
Because, excuse me, and just to explain that for a minute, the design and build part is done as one contract.
Okay.
Yep.
So I assume the overall project and the component parts of SMF Forward each come with various contingencies. I don't know what those percentages are, but typically they're, for most public work projects, they're in the neighborhood of 10 to 15%, if I'm not mistaken. So if there were cost overruns on any part of SMF Forward, who would be responsible for paying the additional cost of those overruns?
So once we've negotiated what is included and what the price is, for the projects that we're delivering by CMAR, it's on the CMAR.
Okay.
If we choose to change the scope, then we can expect pretty significant changes in cost.
Okay. And then would there also be penalties involved for not delivering on schedule?
We can do that, yes.
Okay.
So, and sorry to answer your question fully, we expect to deliver almost all of the projects by CMAR. The parking garage will be design build, which is, the planning and the design and construction's all in one. And then probably the roadway and ground transportation center will be design bid build because it's a more straightforward project.
Thank you. And then I assume that CMAR does not foreclose in any way some of the more recent discussions that I've been part of, that you've been part of with our local building trades, to possibly have a working relationship with them regarding the overall project. Is that fair to say?
So for this project, we need to proceed, and I've met with representatives of the trades, and we are looking at this at the county leadership level, and we'll be coming back to you on that. At this point, though, for this project, in order to meet the timeline to get the $11.7 million grant, we need to proceed now because we don't have time to negotiate a project labor agreement or a community workforce training agreement. So it would not be part of this particular project.
Well,
But we're looking
is there
at it for
a
the
simple
rest.
answer to my question, though, in terms of foreclosing the opportunity to have PLAs or community workforce agreements?
There's nothing that forecloses doing it for SMF Forward for
Okay.
the other projects.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But this you're talking specifically just about pedestrian walkway here?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
And by the way, what fraction of the overall budget for SMF Forward is the walkway?
So it's $141 million out of $1.3 billion.
Okay, So there's still quite a bit of other opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Understood. And then lastly, relative to some of the imagery that you showed of the concepts for the walkway, I'm assuming that as a public project, there is going to be a mandatory budget allocation here for public art that could and will be installed in some fashion, especially as regards the walkway.
Yes, there will. We need to be working on that, and I'm trying to remember the name of the entity that was joint between the county and city that used to govern this.
The Arts
was disbanded.
Commission?
It was disbanded.
Yeah, it was.
SMAC.
Right,
So,
which doesn't
thank you.
exist any longer. So.
Yeah. So now we will be coordinating with other departments in the county on what those terms should be, and I'm not sure where that responsibility lies right now.
We do have a partnership with the city of Sacramento around arts, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I believe that economic development is sort of our lead on that. At least I know Troy used to be.
I believe that's right, yes.
Yep. Troy's shaking his head yes.
So certainly there will be, and exactly what that, exactly who helps us through all that is probably through economic development.
I suspect I'm probably not the only one on this board that's interested in the public art part of it. So I'd like to respectfully request at the right time that the board receive a informational presentation from either you or your staff about some of the public art opportunities for the entire project, not just the walkway.
Yeah, sure. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cerna. I don't see any other comments from my colleagues. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
We don't. Okay. Well, then I will look for a motion on the item.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy. Very exciting. Okay, I'll take us to item 30.
Item 30 is the annual update from the Sacramento County Medi-Cal Dental Advisory Committee and presentation and adoption of a resolution honoring Deborah Payne for her dedicated service on the Medi-Cal Dental Advisory Committee.
It looks like Jonathan will be kicking this off.
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning.
I love my job, and this is part of it. Thank you. I have the honor to present Deborah Payne.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi.
Hello.
Deborah has been the chair of the Medi-Cal Managed Care Advisory Committee for Sacramento County for many years, and we've worked together. I've been the vice chair until recently. And Deborah is now retiring, and the board has very generously written a resolution, which, if I may, I shall read briefly. Okay. So, honoring Deborah Payne for her dedicated service on the Medi-Cal Dental Advisory Committee, whereas Deborah Payne is being recognized for her 11-year tenure on MCDAC, and whereas Deborah was instrumental in the formation of MCDAC in 2011, a county public health committee that reports to the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, whereas Deborah provided oversight and guidance to improve Medi-Cal dental utilization rates and the delivery of dental care services, including prevention education. Whereas from 2016 to 20, Deborah served as vice chair of MCDAC and chair from 2020 to 2023. Whereas Deborah represented MCDAC in oral health in the Sacramento County Health Authority Commission from 2021 to 23. Whereas Deborah participated in groundbreaking children's dental studies, identifying failures of the oral health system, along with key findings as improvements and next steps. Whereas Deborah's advocacy efforts while working with the California State Department of Healthcare Services, Sacramento County Public Health, local dental plans, schools, and other stakeholders improved the delivery of dental services in Sacramento County. Whereas Deborah provided guidance and expertise on the development and implementation of the Dental Transformation Initiative, Early Smiles program in Sacramento County, resulting in over $11 million in new oral health funding. And then, obviously, whereas at the local and state levels, Deborah worked tirelessly to improve access to the dental services for children in Sacramento County. And as a result, the utilization rates have nearly doubled.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. Oh, look at this.
And we're providing her with a gavel because she really likes a little control.
All right.
And I do have, this is a wonderful part of my job, I have a little surprise for you.
You do?
Yes, we have the Liberty Tooth Fairy for you. Oh, no. Yes.
Turn around, Deborah.
Tooth Fairy. Hi. I have some money for you.
Well, all of your friends at Liberty Dental Plan and all of your friends here, we all know that Deborah's always been a tooth fairy, but we wanted to make it official. And so here's your official tooth fairy dust, so she can continue to sprinkle oral health or education everywhere you go. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It has, you don't accomplish anything without a crowd. So it's been a lot of people working together to improve the conditions for children and families' oral health in Sacramento County. And I appreciate every one of you as well. And I want to thank Dr. Casirier, too, for her guidance.
I think we should probably thank Debbie Blanton and Jennifer Fitzpatrick
Yes.
as well. Incredible stuff.
Jennifer Fitzpatrick, she is the new Jan. Jan is here today too, but she has stepped in and just done a fabulous job. So and of course Barbara Abed here, she conducted the many studies since 2010 to help us understand the real data within Sacramento County so we could act on it.
And Jan Ressler, sorry I didn't
And Jan Ressler, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay.
Why don't you hold this?
Okay.
And I will hold
Is this the first visit from the Tooth Fairy in this chamber? Okay.
It's been a few years.
Mr. Chair, while they're taking photos, I just wanted to offer my thanks to Deborah, not just as a member of this board, but certainly as chair of the First Five Commission, who has as part of its charge to be good stewards of our youngest among us and their oral health. And Deborah has played a major role over the years, working side by side and with First Five to accomplish our mission. So I'm really pleased today to see that you're being acknowledged, as you should be, Deborah, for all the great work that you've done here in our community and for our young people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I have to say thank you to Julie Galeo because she stepped up for vice chair position. So between Julie and Jonathan, I know that McDack is in good hands.
Great. Thank you, Deborah. And now I believe, do we have a presentation from Barbara as well?
And after the presentation, Chair, please call for a vote for the resolution.
Thank you.
Dr. Abed?
Good morning. Dr. Barbara Abed. If we could have the slides for the dental presentation, I saw them. There they are. Good. First of all, thank you for supporting this important study and for previous studies in Sacramento over the last decade and a half. The challenge here was to whittle down a 150-page report into 14 slides and to talk through it intelligently and give you the opportunity to ask questions. And so I realize that you have many weighty orders before you, many items, and at the end of the day, this is just teeth, right? Well, not really, because as you probably know and you will know, that it is so related to homelessness, to mental health, to employability, for students to be able to not miss school. The number one reason for school absenteeism, tooth pain among kids. So you will see from this study, We've basically neglected looking at the adult population in Sacramento County. We appropriately looked at kids the last decade and a half, and we looked at them again this time, but we focused our efforts on adults because they're really a kind of unaddressed population when it comes to oral health. It's particularly troubling because these oral diseases are largely preventable if they're addressed early. And early enough means prenatally, actually, because there is suggestion of the link between birth outcomes and the pregnant woman's oral health. Anyway, we also looked at the issue of the separation of oral health from physical health. You know, we joke, hey, the mouth is part of the body, and people need reminding of that, particularly our medical providers. And that's kind of the context in which the study was undertaken. When we were asked to do the study, quite candidly, what I said was, only if there's a commitment by McDack and its partners to take action on the recommendations. There's no use us producing a beautiful report, which we've done, with 14 recommendations if there's not going to be some action. So I loved the comment about outcomes. That's what is important to always track. What did we look at when we came up with our conclusions? Obviously, we pulled data. We tried to avoid the COVID effect because the impact to the dental industry was tremendous in terms of offices and clinics closing down and people being afraid to go to the dentist. So we tried to sort of avoid that year. As is typical, we went to the community for input. We did focus groups. We had a community survey, did key informant interviews. We interviewed 98% of the private dentists who said on the state website they were Medi-Cal providers, not all true, visited each of the community clinics, and had the regional centers do a survey for us among their staff in terms of their involvement. And quite interestingly, we looked at 6 comparison counties on certain measures to see what are they doing that Sacramento County isn't doing. So to kind of put things in context, we kind of looked at the Sacramento County key indicators. Well, of quite interest was we are the 14th most racially and ethnically diverse county in the United States, followed this closely by Contra Costa County, Solano County. Very interesting. What are the implications of that? We have groups of people for whom oral health values are not similar. Access is not similar. That's why that's important. We have a higher rate than the statewide average of population in poverty or kids in poverty, food insecure. What about people with diabetes? 14% of our population has it, 20% borderline. Clear relationship with oral health. We do really well on our use of tobacco products, not on our meth products or our meth use, and the relationship with what we call meth mouth, indirect effect, homelessness, employability. And then the population shift, as we know, is going toward the older population, so again, critical. So kind of in a nutshell, what looked like it had improved? Well, when we looked at kids' dental visits, and this is specific to Medi-Cal, because overall, and we did not just focus on low-income populations, we looked across all of the county. But when we specifically looked at Medi-Cal, we did see an increase in utilization of kids' dental visits. It's great. It's not where it needs to be. It's still below many, many other counties in California, but it has improved. Fewer denials for general anesthesia for the Medi-Cal population in the managed care plans. Basically, that means the one outlier plan has improved. Possibly a lower rate of child dental decay based on what we learned through our screenings. And yay, people have gotten the message about first tooth, first birthday, and are generally following through with that in terms of taking their kids to the providers who will accept kids that young, even though that's professional standard. So on the little to no improvement side, again, adult dental visits, and we'll look at some numbers in a bit, no improvement. Enough operating capacity to do those dental cases. It's not enough to approve them. You got to have the OR time. And people don't want to do dental cases. They don't make money like the cardiac cases. So there are issues there to talk to the hospital association about. Using the emergency room when you have a dental condition, a non-traumatic dental condition, not the place you should go if you have a dental home, which in Sacramento County, most Medi-Cal patients have. Access for special needs populations like homelessness, foster families, et cetera, not much improvement. And physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistant on the medical side, doing better, but still there's a separation that could be improved. I apologize for the density of some of these slides. Don't bother paying attention to them at this point. Read them later if you wish, or read the full report, obviously. But when we looked at the dental screenings in the preschools, the Head Starts, and so forth, it appears as if the first tooth, first birthday message is getting across, community oral health education getting across, and kids actually getting into care earlier. So it looks like this is something to keep our eyes on, that there's a reduction. On the adult side, and we do some extrapolation from national data because we know approximately how many adults have moderate perioditis and how many with severe. And so we see in Sacramento County, close to 500,000 Sacramento adults have some level of oral disease. When we asked, and we looked at statewide data of household surveys, we found 42% of all Sacramentans said, yep, I have excellent or very good teeth. You ask the same population, but the low-income portion of that, and only 20% will tell you, I have decent teeth. 30% of those Sacramento adults missed school or work or had sleep problems due to dental pain. So that's kind of the context, but what about the access barriers? Some are personal, some are what we call systems or structural barriers. And these 5 on the top are somewhat in order, but they pop up everywhere. This is true for Sacramento as it is for most of the United States. If you don't have money, you can't afford it. If you don't know you have coverage, and remember, adult dental in Medi-Cal has taken a hit over the years. First it's in, then it's out, then we carve it out, and then we add this. People are still a little bit confused. Number 2 reason, although in the focus groups, it's number 1, and that's negative prior experience. Being afraid of the dentist. I bet you if I took a secret poll here, there would be many adults who have avoided or delayed going to the dentist. Yep, I'm seeing nods because it's scary, it hurts. You know, it's not your father's dentist these days. Many more offices are more kid-friendly. They sort of get it. But nonetheless, if you've had a bad dental experience, you're going to avoid it. Honestly, lack of personal follow-through. There are people in the focus groups who said, you know what, and I don't mean the people who are just clinging on because they can't pay rent, they can't pay gas, et cetera, but people who are just like, just didn't get around to it. And obviously there is that. And so that's why we have to work with those kinds of issues. It's kind of a supply-demand thing, but it's also a value proposition. I'll talk about that in a second. And then the ones that you would expect, not enough providers willing to see this population, not enough capacity for adults within the structure of dental care, and what I mean by inadequate cross-referrals. It basically means physicians sending their people to the dentist. You know, most medical assessment forms, have you been to the dentist? Yes, no. Many have that. So I asked in the focus group, did you ever put down no? Mm-hmm. Did the doctor or the nurse or anybody see that and say something? Mm-mm. Okay, so again, when we asked for, when we went to the community clinics, particularly the ones that are medical and dental, only 20 to 30% of their clients were assigned to their very own clinic for dental. So you have a Medi-Cal systems issue that needs to be fixed, because auto assignment is sending some people to one clinic for medical, one to dental. Not good. The state website that shows the number of dentists who accept Medi-Cal patients, 14% error. Some didn't, some did. Some said not worth the effort, but they keep putting my name up there. The number of private dentists in the managed dental care provider directories, and I will say the dental managed care plans have really tried to engage the local dentists to get on board with their provider networks, particularly the specialists. It's tough. There are not enough dental specialists in those networks. But we really kind of have a hard time trying to see exactly how many there are, because the three plans share quite a number of those on the list. Other access issues. Using the, I mentioned earlier, the emergency department for a non-traumatic dental condition, middle of the night, pain in the tooth, kind of thing. You really should not be going to the dentist for that. When we looked at all emergency department visits for a non-traumatic dental condition, you can see by the bar graph on top the age groups in which this occurs the highest. So for 21 to 64-year-olds, 3/4 of those visits theoretically could have been prevented with ongoing regular dental care, including hygiene at home. Why do we care? Well, for one thing, as taxpayers, Medi-Cal paid for over 75% of those visits. There is a difference by ethnicity and race, which is the chart below. In the interest of time, let me just say that the women with Medi-Cal who were pregnant made half of the dental visits during their pregnancy than the women with private insurance. So again, this is a key population of adults to pay attention to. Thinking about kids for a moment, the dental sealant use, which is everybody's clinical quality indicator, significantly underutilized and underdelivered for kids on Medi-Cal, especially African American kids. Look at the U.S. average. About 1/3 of the 6 to 9-year-olds have dental sealants. In Sacramento County, less than 14%, and half of that for the older group. When we look at the dental visits, this is kind of the typical measure, annual dental visit. Did you go to the dentist within the last year? Question. The dark blue bars on top versus the green are the adult use. So right away you can see kid use versus adult use, very low. The, the middle bars are California average, and it's fee-for-service because that's the rest of the state's system in dental care. It's still pretty crummy. 1 out of 4 adults went to the dentist. In Sacramento County, less than that, no matter what plan we were looking at. Now, when we the question always comes up, okay, so how is it that these other counties, Fresno, Monterey, Los Angeles, Santa Cruz, I'm forgetting all 6, but, their rates are higher. What are they doing better than we are, other than they have a fee-for-service model, we have a managed care model? And I meant to say at the beginning of this study was not a study of the 2 models. We did that for you in 2010. We have to, of course, address the fact that there are 2 models. But other than that difference, what we learned is really there's not much difference. In Sacramento County, we have boots on the ground. We have people going into various community settings, educating people. We have attempts to try to get people to the dentist. We try to be ethnically, racially sensitive in terms of whether it's language appropriate at the clinics and so forth. Nevertheless, looking across the bottom bar graph by little intervals of age, Sacramento County use of annual dental visit is lower than the average of those comparison counties. I think it deserves a little bit more attention over time. So what is the value proposition for oral health? In other words, how do you get people to value it relative to other things in their life, some of which are stressors, obviously, for people in survival mode, but just for people who are really just trying to get along, raise a family, live a good life. The clinic providers and some of the key informants said, pain, that's what brings people in. Enough pain for long enough will bring people in. Okay. The key informant said, but what promotes it is people perceiving a need based on self-determination, how to get people to value it relative to other things. Now, the focus group participants said, we value good oral health. They acknowledge the benefits of it in those discussions, but yet less than half actually practice that belief by making regular dental visits. More than 50% of the adults and 80% of those in the focus group who had a physician, and most did, could not recall their doctor ever inquiring about their oral health. Nope, never heard about it, didn't ask me about it at all. This were the adults. The number one thing that the key informants, and these are community leaders and professionals and providers and so on, the number one frustration, they said, has been the failure to really solve and address the problem of limited access to general anesthesia. We want to reduce the need for general anesthesia, but when you need it, especially in certain cases where people cannot cooperate in the chair because of disabilities or other kinds of issues. We have not really solved that problem. And I mentioned first to third birthday as something very positive, but nonetheless still needs to act on that knowledge. And when we talked to the dental managed care plans, they said, one of our biggest frustrations, we try to do outreach, we try to get people in, we try to provide a warm line. We don't have accurate information. This is a state systems issue. Wrong or missing telephone numbers. We try to incentivize the specialists with money, with other things. We're just not getting enough attention. So we gave very detailed recommendations around 14 different issues, some of which really are in the lap of the state Medi-Cal dental program, but MCDAC role working with the state to try to solve some of which is really just sort of systems things. Again, the hospital operating room capacity, and here's something that may end up coming back before this group in terms of a future recommendation, is a professionally designed countywide targeted oral health education campaign. I heard over and over again in the focus groups, don't be afraid to show us ugly teeth. Don't remember the black lung in school when they bring the jar of the black lung and talk about tobacco. You need to scare some people. Well, that people seem to feel some of that works a little bit in terms of it's not just about smiles from a cosmetic or vanity point of view. It's related to some of the issues I mentioned. We gave very specific suggestions around studying the issue more deeply and reducing emergency department use. A lot of money went into children's dental services over the last decade. And for your part, thank you. For Medi-Cal's part, thank you. For First Five, thank you. Increased the capacity greatly. For adults, those same clinics do not have much capacity. And so there are additional dollars needed to build out some of that capacity. Increasing the attention from the alcohol and drug world. We haven't necessarily made enough connection there. And engaging some of our non-traditional providers, people who could play a role, be that the business community, parks and recreation, faith-based community, kind of our non-traditional, bring them into the fold, deal with the sealant issue, improve reliability of screening data, because we really want to know, is it true that the kids that we're seeing this year and next year and possibly the next year are going to show less and less evidence of decay? That would be wonderful. Referral management and care coordination system, recommendations about that, and certainly increase provider training to incentivize more on the medical side to recognize their dental colleagues and do cross referrals. I looked at one of the sort of major senior adult surveys in Sacramento last year, and there were some questions around health, as you would expect, not one question about dental. And so our suggestion is just kind of pay attention to that. Whenever there are some surveys, slip in a little question about oral health. Our fluoridated water portion of the county has not changed in the last, I may be wrong about this, but at least 15 years since we've been looking at it. There's work that could be done there. And we also suggested that the dental managed care plan directors have regular meetings of one another, including with the clinic directors. That doesn't happen, by the way, as obvious and simple as that is. And then, as I mentioned, on the Department of Healthcare Service side, there are some recommendations for MCDAC working with the state to try to sort of revamp some policies and procedures. So that was kind of a whirlwind. I'm happy to entertain any questions, either now or later when it percolates in your subconsciousness and you think, dang, what did she say? Or where is that in her report? We're on the website, Barbara Abbott Associates. You'll find the email. I am totally available to you later and now, apparently, for a couple of minutes, if you have time.
Thank you. Well, thank you. There is a lot to percolate on here, and I appreciate that, Barbara. Thank you. A lot of great information. I know, Mr. Porteous, did you have some comments as well that you wanted to provide before I go to Supervisor Kennedy for a comment?
I should probably, Barbara's not going to toot her own horn. The report she wrote about kids' access to oral health is what Supervisor Sana, Dickinson, others took and just lit up. First Five funded essentially a doubling of access for kids in this county as a result of their actions and this report, the original report. I should also note that adult dental access has not been funded through the Medicaid program, Medi-Cal, until about 5-6 years ago. So one of the things we knew with kids was we could actually get paid if we built capacity. And it's taken longer for us, including my organization, to grow capacity for adults. That is on track. But this report gives us information. This report gives us marching orders. We've already got a work group working on the 14 recommendations. We've already engaged the health systems about their unnecessary utilization of their emergency departments. The dental directors are talking to each other, a meeting now. This report has really galvanized our community, and we hope that it will have the same impact as the original report on kids. The other thing is we're trying to meet the needs of different populations. People in rehab, in residential rehab, they should have a total oral transformation. They're going back into the workforce. Child protective services, families on CalWorks. These are all services that ultimately we need to work in with and increase the capacity with what really would be kind of low-hanging fruit, people we're already working closely with. And so that kind of convergence will happen.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Barbara, be careful for what you wish. I will be reaching out to you and go into more detail. I want to just zero in on one aspect of your report, which thank you very much for a thorough, thoughtful report these are issues that I've been thinking about for 15 years, and you brought it together in one report. Appreciate that. The one area that I want to focus in on, I have a constituent in my district that I'm fairly familiar with, who has developmental disabilities. As a child, it was, let me preface this by saying, first of all, that fantastic work, Supervisor Cerna and all the work that First Five does for youth and kids, and critically important. We all understand that. But developmentally disabled adults face the same hurdles that often homeless people face, as far as self-esteem issues, as far as addiction issues, often as far as the ability for employment. And as you said and pointed out, and I'm repeating much of what you said because I think it's this important that we have this public conversation, that the barriers that disabled adults already face, and then on top of that, when you have the dental health care issues, it's devastating in many ways. And we recognize that, but we still are, expecting adults primarily with disabilities and developmental disabilities to navigate an extremely complex, confusing system that, quite frankly, this county supervisor has trouble navigating. Is that a state issue? Is it a county issue? Is it both? And, what do you think? Because, I looked at even your numbers, your statistics for adult access as opposed to children, and it's less than half in many circumstances, in many age categories. And again, focus on the youth, incredibly important, but I think we're leaving some behind, that we need to do a better job. And I'd just like to get your take on that.
Okay, thank you. You're absolutely right. The developmentally disabled community not only face the same barriers, but they are more insurmountable. The Alta Regional Center, which serves a number of that population, one of the positive findings is, as a result of a study we did for you a couple of years ago, they hired a dental coordinator because we said, you guys aren't paying enough attention. And so we also queried their service staff, the people who are actually case managers with the clients. And we found an improvement from a couple of years ago in terms of their knowledge of the importance of dental and their ability to help families navigate the system and use the system. So there is more recognition on the part of the caregiving side. But in terms of the office capacity to serve them, that is still an issue. Because when we interviewed 98% of the local dentists who take Medi-Cal patients, they said, we'll take people as long as they can cooperate. We all know what that means. There's levels of cooperation and levels of tolerance for uncooperation. And it's a very challenging kind of issue.
If I may, so we've engaged the dental directors of the managed health plans as well. So the good thing about this advisory committee is we have the statewide directors coming in, having this conversation. So there are always going to be a subset of persons we serve who do need general anesthetic to have even a teeth cleaning. We know that. But many of us are trying to figure out the other ways to help someone on their visit. The other thing is to integrate. Even if someone has general anesthetic, can they get updates, boosters? What are the other medical things that need to happen? And we fear that some people are still being put under general anesthetic and not getting routine medical stuff, for which they would have to then be anesthetized. So that's kind of, that conversation's happening. UOP, for example, is going to build a sensory environment that's really sophisticated and come into Sacramento with it to create a safer place for people with developmental disabilities that's taking into account this. That can only happen with these economies of scale that we've created. And so, yeah, we're seeing it's better now. We're seeing more of these services coming in. One of the health systems has opened up operating room capacity a little bit. And so the surgeons have a little more access. But these are all these, we're moving in the right direction. But you're right about your perspective. But we are looking at the best practice, and it's growing.
Okay. And the other emphasis that, for the healthcare systems that I appreciate you make, often I fight the stigma of people separating mental health and physical health. It's health. And we seem to be making progress there. Still not making the progress with dental health versus physical health. It's health. And I think that integration, when you go to your doctor and it's clear, particularly a person with special needs, who needs to be championed, I think that we need to do far better at integrating oral health in with just health. So thank you for your report.
Well, thank you for being a champion on the Health Authority, insisting that we have dental on it.
Well, and I want to ask that question. Thank you, Dr. Porteous, for bringing that up. So would you explain, what's, for people who might not know, the difference between the Health Authority and the Managed Dental Advisory Committee?
I'd say the biggest difference is the role of the state. The state comes to all of our meetings on the dental side. The state responds to requests for data. They disaggregate data. They give us comparison data. It's a really smooth partnership. They still do sometimes sort of make rambunctious decisions about whether this county should be GMC or not, but the conversation is really fluid, and the availability of data is incredible. We really are able to engage with them, and they come to every meeting, and they are partners.
Not sure I love that answer, but thank you.
Well, let me tag on to that. This is called the Sacramento County Medi-Cal Dental Advisory Committee. For all intents and purposes, it serves statewide. You've been a pioneer because the other counties pay attention to what happens here. They attend meetings, they listen in. What happens in Sacramento often sets policies statewide. So the influence is not limited to Sacramento. I'd say we are the pioneers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara and Jonathan. Do we have any public comment?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, then we do need a motion to hopefully adopt Deborah's resolution.
So moved.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, that report is receive and file. Thank you very much, and that will complete our morning session. We are meeting in closed session. I know. Second. Okay, second floor. We're not. Okay, morning session is adjourned. Okay, it's 2:04, and we will reconvene for our afternoon session. Madam Clerk, please call the roll to establish quorum.
Okay, good afternoon. Supervisor Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Frost? Here. Hume?
Here.
Desmond?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Okay, we'll move right into our afternoon calendar with item 31.
Item 31 is the 2023 Central Valley High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area HIDTA presentation.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Jones, kick it off.
Thank you, Chair, Board of Supervisors. Eric Jones, Public Safety and Justice Agency Deputy County Executive. And as you recall, a number of months ago, there was a request to have a presentation of activity by this task force. So I'd like to introduce Sacramento County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant John Homan to give a presentation.
Welcome, Lieutenant Homan.
Afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
I am Lieutenant John Homan, Impact Bureau Commander for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. I was a previous narcotics investigator for 6 years, and then the supervisor for 2. So to answer the first question, production, methamphetamine is produced in Mexico. The precursors are made by China and they're shipped to Mexico. So our meth that comes here into the Central Valley comes directly to Mexico or from Mexico. Down there they have super labs. Depending on which cartel it is, they could have more or less, but they're making methamphetamine in metric tons.
Supervisor Cerna has a
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize ahead of time. I'm probably going to interrupt several times during your presentation just because, first of all, we all have had a chance to review your presentation before today, and I think it really tells the story quite well. It's been, I think, put together very well. And as you may be aware, I've been on quite a soapbox for some time now on the subject of methamphetamine and its impact to our community and to our county. I'm curious, though, what you can tell us about what you've seen in terms of meth distribution, production, import, use, pre-pseudoephedrine, the pseudoephedrine regulation versus post.
Yeah, so pre-pseudoephedrine regulation, we saw a lot of labs here in the Central Valley. I wasn't on during that time, but my mentors participated in raiding and dismantling those labs. Ever since the regulation of pseudoephedrine, it's greatly impacted the quality of meth. And we have seen the labs we see now in the Central Valley are conversion labs. It's not so much the production of it. So they're turning that, which is part of the presentation, but they're producing the liquid meth and turning it into crystallized meth, which is what we see on the streets.
So the liquid form, which is not, obviously it's not in its complete form yet, when it's coming across the southern border, that's the form it takes because there is no such regulation in Mexico.
Well, it's easier to smuggle into the United States,
okay,
to put it plainly.
But in terms of having access to, I guess, all the ingredients is what I'm getting at. Mexico has no problem.
Yeah, they have no problem. They have plenty of ingredients to keep producing methamphetamine.
And what are some of those ingredients besides the pseudoephedrine? I mean, I've heard all kinds of caustic things like, battery acid or what's the other one? Different solvents, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the solvents are more used to convert the methamphetamine, meth from liquid to solid. And in regards to battery and lithium that they use from the batteries, that's for one-pot methods. And we do have those in the United States, but that's more of a Midwest deal. We're not seeing that here just because we're in the main thoroughfare for Mexico to smuggle their drugs into all our communities. It's just way more cost productive to ship it here instead of trying to make it.
Gotcha. All right, I'll try to refrain from telling your story for us. So,
I don't believe that for a second, but I'll continue until the next question. Heroin used to be primarily produced in Afghanistan. That has changed in the recent years. The Mexican cartels have figured out that it's way more cost effective to grow their own poppy plants and produce their own heroin. So we're starting to see a lot of that. Fentanyl. So this is HIDA, the number one threat right now on the assessment. Fentanyl is a huge problem. It's only going to get worse. China makes all those precursors and ships it over here, and it's primarily made in Mexico, but Canada does see labs where they're producing it and making it, and then it all gets shipped to us. Here in the Central Valley, all our fentanyl is coming from Mexico. Cocaine. The cocaine game's changed a little bit. Also, speaking of fentanyl, as we know, Tom Petty overdosed on cocaine, but really he died from fentanyl poisoning. Cocaine used to be sent to us from Colombia. Ever since the Mexican cartels got into the cocaine game, They've really taken that over, and the Colombian cartels have found that they rather not go to war with the Mexican cartels just because they're so violent that they have become partners. So now cocaine goes from Colombia to Mexico to us. And then some current trends we're seeing. Meth is really, really cheap. When they first did those pseudo regulations, the price of meth skyrocketed just because it was hard to get a hold of. They didn't really have an answer to making it at that time. So then, I've heard of upwards of $20,000 a pound when pseudoephedrine was first regulated here. Right now, meth is $1,000 a pound. And it could be even cheaper in some areas like LA. For us in Sacramento, it's $1,000. And there's an unlimited amount. Like, people are getting humongous loads. Oops, wrong button. So meth is often smuggled, like I had touched on before, in the liquid form just because it's easier to conceal. As you can see in these pictures I attached, a lot of times they'll be in water bottles. Here's the rose globes. We've seen them in iced tea containers, you name it. It's just a lot easier to smuggle it in the liquid form. They take this liquid, and the trend we have seen, south of the Grapevine used to be the major area for clandestine labs where they would convert this meth from liquid to solid. We're starting to see a lot more in the Central Valley. And in the past couple months, a small example of that is Tulare County and Kern County seized 1,500 pounds at a conversion lab in Bakersfield. So we're definitely going to see a lot more of those in the Central Valley. I believe the reason for that is it's easier to get it over the grapevine when it's in liquid form and hide, and then it doesn't get picked off by law enforcement. See how many times I can go backwards on that. So Prop 47 came into play and kind of changed the whole drug world for everybody, I think. Meth is highly underreported. And in all honesty, law enforcement is not out there making a lot of arrests on it. It's a misdemeanor. It's a cite. It's not really something officers are pursuing.
Mr. Chair, can I? What is the threshold under Prop 47 in terms of something more than a citation for possession?
It would have to be possession for sale. So what we're seeing in the law enforcement side of things, when we arrest individuals who are selling narcotics, every case turns into a debate whether it's possession for personal use or possession for sale. So there is no defined, like, hey, it's a gram or less. There's no number.
Really? So it's that subjective?
Yes. The patrol officers are saying the number one drugs they are seeing is still meth and fentanyl. That's just plaguing our streets right now. Another trend we're seeing is we're getting a lot of fentanyl, specifically colored fentanyl, out of the Bay Area, Oakland area. They have recently, they're pretty good at marketing. So they take the fentanyl and they put it into a pill press, and the pill press makes it have an appearance of a kilo, like it's a portion from the kilo. And often the person buying those drugs like that because they believe it's more pure if it's off the kilo or brick, whatever you want to call it. Also, in regards to fentanyl, we did recently hear that the Mexican cartels want to get away from shipping pills up here, and they're going to focus on kilograms of fentanyl. And we have been seeing a lot more fentanyl in kilograms. They're taking a lot of heat right now with the pills. And I think in their mind, they believe if it's coming up in kilograms versus pills, it doesn't have that negative effect on them. So another question you had asked Supervisor Cerna was in regards to whether the HIDA strategies are working. I believe they are. So for the year 2022, Central Valley HIDA seized 873 pounds of cocaine, 972 pounds of fentanyl, 1.5 million pills, 217 pounds of heroin, and almost 11,000 pounds of methamphetamine. And that jurisdiction covers from Bakersfield all the way up to the Oregon border. And I believe you had another question regards usage. The HIDA program doesn't focus on usage. We're not jamming up people that are doing personal use. Our priorities are to take off large-scale drug traffickers. Some impacts to the community. It does increase violence within the community. Gang violence, property thefts, overdoses. I think we all could agree we've been seeing a lot of overdoses.
Poisonings.
Yes. It's ruining families. I know me personally, I had a family member that died from drugs. So I think it impacts us all in some way, shape, or form. And then homelessness. So 100% there is a correlation to drug use and homelessness. But in all honesty, we don't know what that is yet. Sheriff Cooper and Under Sheriff Ziegler have made it clear that we're going to start tracking that data so we could bring it to the board at a later time and discuss what we have found. And HIDA, we don't deal with the homeless. That's more of the HOT team. As you know, Supervisor Desmond, that's their role. And then I just threw in a HOT map. So that's a map that the HOT team put together of the homelessness camps in our area. And then OD Maps is a system that paramedics and firemen use to track overdoses. It's pretty new to the county. And as you can see, a lot of it overlaps. And one thing to take into account is these are just the ones we're tracking. There's lots of groups out there handing out Narcan, which is great, but all those comebacks where they come back through the naloxone is not being tracked. So I imagine they're a lot higher than what we know.
Do you know what the color coding is for either map or both?
I'll do my best. So one is, and I can't tell you which one it is. One is where fire responded and treated the victim. And then one is where it was administered. And then I think there's some green in there, and that was a death.
Okay.
And I'll hand it over to the board if you guys have any questions. And I just want to thanks for that question. It'd be great if you can get background information on that chart you just showed us from both the fire department and also a legend for your sheriff's stats that inform where those camps are located. I'd like to know the criteria you use to kind of populate that. That would be helpful, maybe as a follow-up. I know, what is the stat nationwide? We had the highest number of overdose deaths in the history of this country, like 107,000 or something last year, and at least half were from fentanyl. And we've had discussions here before about, and maybe Ann, I don't know if you would know, but are they going to try to, are we going to try to start capturing the number of overdoses? I know we capture the number of overdose deaths, but we had a discussion when we were talking about the fentanyl presentation when Anne Marie Schubert was still the DA about, hey, we don't capture the near deaths or the people who overdose but actually survive. Has there been any further discussion about that? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of, but we can certainly check and follow up with you.
So Supervisor Desmond, that's where OD Maps will come into play. I think they'll do a better job at tracking all that.
But is that just deaths, or is that?
It will track
even near any overdose that requires
any overdose.
Treatment. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. The latest number I heard was roughly 200 people a day dying from overdose. And that's why I apologize for interrupting your presentation, but one of the things that the former DA in the One Pill Can Kill campaign wanted to stress is that we should start referring to fentanyl poisonings as just that, poisonings, because in many cases it's not someone overdosing on something they intended to take, it's them being poisoned by having fentanyl in whatever drug they were trying to consume. So that's important. I think the points that my colleague Supervisor Cerna was making relative to the change in the composition of meth is important, because whereas pseudoephedrine-based meth was plant-based, now it's chemical-based and being made by the metric ton, and the toxicity and the rates of psychosis after the initial use are so much higher with this new form of meth that it's really it's astounding, and it kind of gets hold of people much more quickly. Is there any way, and this might be something that's more appropriate for the DA, is there any way to build into our criminal code an escalator, much in the way that we would deem something a hate crime, in order to kind of recognize the fact that these folks who are dealing in these larger quantities are predators, and whereas they may not partake themselves, they are absolutely preying on members of the community?
Yes, but that has to make it through legislation.
So that would be a state legislator?
Correct. So I know, here's one small example in regards to fentanyl. Currently, Health and Safety Code 11370.1, which is essentially if you have a loaded firearm with meth, cocaine, or heroin, it's an additional enhancement. That doesn't apply to fentanyl. So we've been working with some legislators to add fentanyl to that, because we often find individuals who are selling fentanyl with firearms, because it's a risky game. They're going to have firearms. So yes, it could be done. I would think that's going to be people above me that make the move to do that.
And enhancement was the word I was looking for, so I appreciate you using that. And then and this might not yet be on the radar for the high intensity or the HIDTA. Has tranq dope made its way out here yet?
I'm aware of it, and I'm sure it's coming, but we haven't seen it. Okay. It's not really something we've come across yet, but I'm sure we will at some point.
Well, it's sad to say, if you're not familiar with that, that's where they're mixing opioids with, as a xylazine.
Correct.
It's a horse tranquilizer that when they shoot this up, it causes necropsy at the injection site. And so you'll see people literally with dead spots on their arms and still trying to, it's horrible. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't come out here. But
yeah, hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Supervisor Frost.
In one of my meetings recently with DA Ho, he was talking about, and this might be a little bit of an overlap from what Supervisor Hume was talking about, but he talked about building a case, and part of the conversation related to the fact that there are people that are out there dealing fentanyl, and they seem to have, well, how it came to me was that the family whose daughter died noticed that the guy that she was with the night she died, there's other incidents where there was overdoses or deaths. And so we came back with the conversation, why can't we, can we find a way to, stop these people that are dealing drugs that are killing more than one person, a series of deaths or injuries. And he talked about building a case, and I think this might, I don't know if there has to be legislation for that, but he also talked about a partnership with the sheriff and maybe a warning that would be sent out to dealers who, or, in some way to memorialize that there was an event with this person at this place and they did receive a warning. Is that kind of thing possible without legislation, or are those the kind of things that you're working on?
So I would say that's probably a question more directed for the DA's office. From our stance, we do the best to build the best case we could put forward based on facts and the information we have, and then we give it to the district attorney, and then they're the ones that decide whether they're going to pursue those criminal charges or not. Those situations happen all the time, and we are investigating cases like that, and we will continue to do so. But I have no idea as far as what legislation needs to be changed in regards to those charges.
He mentioned, like, if it goes down as an accidental death, then it's not a homicide, and it's never, it's documented as an accidental death, so it's not investigated as a homicide. So it makes a difference in even the communications at the scene, it's kind of hard for you guys. It seems like it's hard for you to really wrap your heads around what happened before you got there.
Correct, and often, unfortunately, when there's overdoses, a lot of times there's several people around, and they are more worried about getting in trouble, so oftentimes they'll get rid of evidence. So by the time we get there, a lot of that is gone or unavailable. I do know that we definitely are interested in pursuing those cases, and we do the best we can with whatever information we have, so we'll continue to do so.
Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Frost. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not have any comments in person or on the phone.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's depressing. I appreciate Supervisor Cerna asking for this presentation. I think it's important to highlight this as much as we possibly can. The dangers of, in particular, fentanyl and methamphetamine, certainly, and the impact it's having on our community. So I appreciate you and the rest of the Sheriff's team being here today. And I don't see any other comments from my colleagues up here. So this is a receive and file. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
We're going to have to take your nominations because we still have about 4 minutes left, if that's okay.
All right.
That would be item number 36. You are continuing to May 9th, the Adult and Aging Commission, Sacramento County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, Sacramento County Behavioral Health Youth and Advisory Board, continuing to May 23rd, Antelope Community Planning Advisory Council, Assessment Appeals Board, Cemetery Advisory Commission, Rio Linda Alberta Community Planning Advisory Council, continuing to June 6th, Carmichael Recreation and Park District, County Service Area 4B, Slough House, Wilton, Casumnes, County Service Area 4C, Delta, In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee, the Orangeville Community Planning Advisory Council, Sacramento County Treasury Oversight Committee, and the Southeast Area Community Planning Advisory Council. And your first item is the Arden Arcade Community Planning Advisory Council.
Please continue to May 23rd, pending an interview.
Okay. Area for Agency on Aging Advisory Council.
Chiefs recommend continuing to May 23rd.
Carmichael Old Foothill Farms Community Planning Advisory Council.
Reappoint Michael Feliciano, continue the remainder to June 6th.
And Cordova Community Planning Advisory Council, that will be you.
Continue to May 23rd, pending interview.
Okay. Disability Advisory Commission.
Chiefs recommend nominating Isabel Ariola and continue the remainder to June 6th.
Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee.
Chiefs recommend continuing to June 6th.
Fair Oaks Community Planning Advisory Council.
Please continue to June 6th.
Public Health Advisory Board.
Chiefs recommend continuing to May 23rd.
I'm going to talk slower. Recreation and Park Commission.
Continue to May 9th, pending interview.
Sacramento County Alcohol and Drug Advisory Board.
Chiefs recommend continuing to May 23rd.
Sacramento County Youth Commission.
Please continue to June 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Cerna. And Mr. Kennedy.
Nominate Joy McDaniel.
Okay. And we took care of that. Sunrise Recreation and Park District.
Please nominate Suzanne Yule.
Vineyard Area Community Planning Advisory Council, Mr. Kennedy.
Continue to May 23rd.
And Mr. Hume.
Continue to May 23rd.
And that concludes item 36. And I will.
So for the rest of the presenters today, I'm going to give you a hand signals if it's like this, just, delay it. All right. And so, Flo, while we're waiting, maybe, for tomorrow, since we have this kind of a little bit of a new system with the off agenda, I think we just need to make it very clear to folks as they come and sign up for public comment off agenda, let them know that their place in line will remain if we have to continue it to the after the
end
timed
of the
items.
present.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Understood.
And then if folks phone in, I mean, obviously we're not going to make them stay on the phone for hours and hours. Will they be able to call back in when we reopen?
Absolutely.
Off agenda? Oh, okay, good. So you can accommodate
They
that.
can
So we
hang
weren't sure
out
about
or
that.
they can call back.
Okay. So they'll get their place in line. They'll be able to maintain that place in line.
If they decide to hang up and call back, it's just first in, first out on the phone.
But you'll be able to recognize them because, I mean, the thought is that, off-agenda public comment starts in the morning, and we'll have to figure out, at one point we'll have to close the queue, and I don't want that queue to open back up for everybody in the afternoon. So I'll work over some of those logistics with you, and I'm always welcome to suggestions from my colleagues here as we try to kind of find the sweet spot.
Yep, we'll do everything we can to monitor that phone list.
Okay, we're 1 minute behind schedule, so.
Okay, item 32 is the Morvi South time extension, a one-year time extension for a tentative subdivision map located east of Waterman Road and south of Florin Road in the Vineyard community. And the environmental document is an addendum to prior mitigated negative declaration.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. You might notice that I am not Jessica Brandt. My name is Emma Patton, and I'm a senior planner and presenting the Morvi South vesting tentative subdivision map time extension for you this afternoon.
Welcome, Emma.
Thank you. So the vacant Morvi South property is located east of Waterman Road and south of Florin Road in the Vineyard community. The property is zoned RD5 and is within the North Vineyard Station specific plan. The property to the west is the constructed Parkside Village subdivision. To the north is the approved but unconstructed North Parkland subdivision. To the east is the approved but unconstructed Morvi Southeast subdivision. And to the south is a school and a park site. A bit of history. In January 2007, the board approved the Morvi South vesting tentative subdivision map along with a rezone, a special development permit, and an affordable housing strategy. The map was approved for a 3-year period, originally expiring on March 2nd, 2010. Due to several statutory time extensions and a discretionary time extension, the map was extended to August 22nd, 2022. The map is now eligible for an additional 1-year time extension following the December 2021 updates to County Code related to time extensions. So that brings us to the applicant's request for a 1-year time extension of the Morvi South vesting tentative subdivision map, which involves the division of 13.4 acres into 70 single-family residential lots, 4 landscape lots, and 1 park lot. Approval of the 1-year time extension would result in a new expiration date of August 22nd, 2023. Approval of the time extension would also extend the previously approved special development permit involving deviations to lot and setback standards, along with the affordable housing plan that was approved with the original entitlements. The map would be subject to the original map conditions and some minor modifications to those conditions. Those minor modifications include renumbering and organization of the conditions, the addition of previously adopted mitigation measures, the omission of some unnecessary conditions, some administrative updates to contact information within those original conditions, and the addition of several advisory conditions.
Bless you.
Bless you.
An addendum to the prior mitigated negative declaration for the Morvi South project was prepared for this request. It concludes that the project would result in less than significant impacts with the implementation of mitigation measures. On this slide, you can see the vesting tentative subdivision map. You can see the 70 single-family residential lots. It also shows that the map would be accessed via 4th Street from Waterman Road to the north, with additional connections to Waterman Road through the constructed Parkside Village subdivision to the west. There's also some opportunities to connect to planned but unconstructed subdivisions to the north and to the east. The Vineyard CPEC met on November 10th, 2022, and recommended denial of the requested entitlements. The Vineyard CPAC did not have comments directly related to the More by South subdivision. Their concerns were related to the off-site Central California Traction Company, or CCTC, railroad crossing at Waterman Road between Tawny Port Way and Poinsettia Drive. In February of this year, following the CPAC meeting, the Department of Transportation asked this board's direction related to that crossing. At that time, the board did direct Department of Transportation staff to continue negotiations with CCTC to allow an at-grade crossing at that Waterman Road location, with an agreement that the county would construct an overcrossing should it ever become necessary, should the CCTC line ever become active again. The Planning Commission met on February 6, 2023, and recommended that the board approve the requested entitlements, voting 3 yes, 0 no, and 2 absent. I do want to acknowledge that while this slide states that the recommendation was for the denial, the board letter correctly indicates that the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the request. The Planning Commission asked questions related to the CPAC's concerns and were satisfied with staff's response related to ongoing negotiations with CCTC. The time extension is required to provide additional time necessary for the applicant to file the final map. The subdivision remains consistent with the general plan policies, with the North Vineyard Station specific plan policies, with applicable development standards. The subdivision remains compatible with its surrounding context and plan development. Further findings required to deny the time extension of a vesting tentative subdivision map cannot be made. And finally, there are no significant environmental concerns with the mitigation measures as provided. So based on this analysis, staff does recommend that the board determine the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program, together with the CEQA addendums prepared for this project, are adequate and complete and appropriate for the proposed project. That you approve the 1-year time extension for the More by South vesting tentative subdivision map, resulting in a new expiration date of August 22nd, 2023. I do want to acknowledge that given the August 22nd, 2023 date is quickly approaching, the applicant has been advised to work with our survey section on steps to file their map. The applicant has submitted a map application to the survey section, which is in review. So that concludes my presentation, and I am available should you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. We could have given you a few more minutes. Supervisor Hume?
Do I need to speak slower, Chair? Thank you for the presentation. And, as I read in your slide there that there were no findings as to deny this extension. But as I understand it, I believe I received this information in my briefing, this is the last available extension, correct? And so that August 22nd really is a drop-dead date. If we can't get it processed, then all of those vesting rights go away. Is that true?
Yeah, that's the last available extension through our discretionary time extension process. The Subdivision Map Act does allow for further extensions for phasings of maps or should the applicant enter into a development agreement. But in terms of discretionary time extensions available, this 1 year is the last available year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Hume. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not.
Okay. Well, no more comments from my colleagues. Entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the extension.
Second.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, so I guess we have to take a 5-minute recess here, huh? Any other business to take care of? All right, so we'll recess till 2:45. Okay, move back in session at 2:45. Do you have to call the roll again?
I do. Okay. Supervisor Cerna, Kennedy, Frost, Hume,
Here.
Desmond,
Here.
and you have a quorum.
Okay, we'll move on to item 33.
Yes, item 33 is the U.S. Foods American Natural Gas and Zoning Ordinance Amendment, Use Permit, and Design Review for a property located at 4519 Winter Street at the southwest corner of Winter Street and Dean Street in the North Highlands community, and the environmental document is a negative declaration.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Kimber. Right, yes. Oh, there you go. There you go.
My name is Kimber Gutierrez, and I am a senior planner with Planning and Environmental Review, and I will be presenting the U.S. Foods American Natural Gas Project to you all this afternoon. Next slide, please. Or can I move it?
Yeah.
Oh,
do it.
awesome. Thank you. The subject property is located at 4519 Winter Street at the southwest corner of Winter Street and Dean Street in the North Highlands community. The subject parcel is 38.55 acres in size and is developed with the U.S. Foods Campus, which is a food supplier and distributor operation. The proposed project is to be located on the area identified in the red box, which is 1.5 acres of undeveloped land on the northeast corner of the parcel. The subject parcel is located within the West McClellan district of the McClellan Park Special Planning Area. The parcel has a split designation between the Bell Avenue Industrial Office Park Subdistrict and the Light Industrial Subdistrict of the SPA. The proposed project area, so the red box, is within the Bell Avenue Subdistrict. The subject parcel is also located within the North Highlands Foothill Farms Environmental Justice Community, and surrounding land uses include industrial uses to the west, north and east, and rural residential and light industrial uses within the city of Sacramento limits to the south. Here is the site plan. To provide a little bit more background, U.S. Foods, in partnership with American Natural Gas, are proposing to construct a public serving compressed natural gas fueling station on the 1.5 acre of undeveloped land at the northeast corner of the parcel. The Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District awarded U.S. Foods an incentive to construct a CNG fueling station that will dispense 100% renewable natural gas. The fueling station must be operational year-end 2023 in order to remain eligible for the award funding. And the operating hours for the public use of the CNG fueling station will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. The project also includes a time fill fueling facility for the U.S. Foods operation. It's specifically for their existing fleet of trucks. The time fill fuel facility will be located in the existing asphalt parking lot. I don't know if this is, oops. So this area here is where the time fill fueling will occur. And they will run north to south just west of the distribution center. This is just an enlarged view of the CNG fast fill station. And to go over what the entitlement request is today, so the use of bulk fuel storage and dispensing to include CNG is permitted in the light industrial subdistrict, but not within the Bell Avenue subdistrict. So therefore, we need to do an amendment to the McClellan Park SPA to change the land use designation of the subject site from Bell Avenue to light industrial. For the use permit, footnote 13 referenced in Table 4 of the SPA reads that bulk fuel storage and dispensing to include CNG is permitted in certain buildings within the SPA. Neither of the buildings identified include this project site. So for all other buildings and parcels, the base zone does apply. In this case, the base zone is M1, which is the light industrial zoning district. This refers back to the zoning code where we do not specifically have a land use category for CNG fueling stations, so we would use the automobile service stations, which does require a use permit from the Board of Supervisors. The use permit also includes a request to allow the roof canopy of the fueling station to exceed the height requirement of 3 feet. So that's just the top portion of the canopy, not the overall height. And the entitlement request also includes a design review to determine substantial compliance with the design guidelines. So at the top picture here is a photo of an existing CNG fueling station, just for context, and the bottom photo is a provided rendering of the CNG fueling station. So it will consist of a canopy, 3 fast-filled dual hose dispensers, a compressor compound, and 12 20-foot-long above-ground storage vessels. An initial study and negative declaration was prepared pursuant to CEQA for this project and released for public review on December 28th of 2022. The list of impacts discussed is on the right-hand side of the screen, and the document did conclude that the project would result in a less than significant impact to environmental topics. The Design Review Advisory Committee met on June 23rd, 2022, and recommends the board find the project in substantial compliance with the design guidelines. The North Highlands CPAC met on June 28th, 2022, and recommend the board approve the requested entitlements. And the Planning Commission met on February 27th, 2023, and recommends the board approve the requested entitlements. The proposed project is consistent with all applicable land use plans as conditioned. The project is compatible with surrounding zoning and land uses. There are no significant environmental concerns. The project was supported by the North Highlands CPAC as well as the Planning Commission and found consistent with the design guidelines by the DRAC. So based on staff's analysis, staff does recommend the board take the following actions. So determine the environmental analysis prepared pursuant to CEQA is adequate and complete. Approve an ordinance to amend the McClellan Park Special Planning Area. Approve the use permit subject to findings and conditions, and find the project in substantial compliance with the design guidelines subject to findings and conditions. With that, I will conclude my staff report and can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kimber. And I know we have folks representing the applicant here to answer any questions. I don't see any of my colleagues queued up with any questions. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not.
Okay, Supervisor Cerna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there are no questions by my colleagues and no comments from the applicant, I'd like to move the item.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, well, we are once again ahead here.
I don't even know what to say. This is just so unusual. I'm sorry.
Hard to plan for something we never anticipated. We can just sit here in awkward silence or take another recess.
Any good jokes?
Talk amongst yourselves. We'll take another recess till 3 o'clock, and in case people want to get up and walk around.
Yes.
Okay, we will go back in session at 3 o'clock. Please call the roll.
Supervisor Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy? Frost? Here. Hume? Here. Desmond?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Item 34 is the 2030 General Plan Annual Report for calendar year 2022.
Good afternoon, Chair Desmond, members of the board. Todd Smith, your planning director, here to present 2022 work on implementation of the county's general plan. We do this every year around, well, actually around March. But for today's presentation, I'm just going to go through what we've done over the last year and what our work plan is for next year. Starting with some of the major projects and programs that are embodied in our general plan. The environmental justice element, as many of you know, was adopted 2019. We have continued implementation work on that effort. Excuse me, as well as some additional stakeholder outreach in the past year that I'll touch on as I hit on some of the other individual projects and programs There is an attachment to the staff report that highlights in detail some implementation work. I'm not going to cover it all in this presentation. One of those projects that really highlights the prioritization of environmental justice is the Climate Action Plan. That work has been ongoing for a number of years, as you know. We did complete several drafts of this document in 2022. We conducted a workshop in March, a final draft in August. Then we conducted the board hearing in September 22, at which, as you may recall, we received a significant number of comments, some as late as during the hearing. And so that prompted us to take a step back. We have been working on responding to those comments received. In the interim time, however, the California Air Resources Board has adopted the 2022 scoping plan. That is the statewide document that individual jurisdictions can draw on to inform local climate action planning. So we had been messaging all along that we had intended to update the climate action plan when that scoping plan was adopted by the state. We're taking this opportunity now, because it has been adopted, to pull relevant information from that scoping plan into our CAP. In addition to that, we've also been made aware of newer legislation, AB 1279, that clearly sets out a target for statewide carbon neutrality. That's 2045. And so we're making sure that the CAP is responsive to that legislation as well. And we do anticipate bringing the CAP back before the board by the end of this year. The final item on this slide is the county's active transportation plan. This was adopted in October of last year. It combines the former pedestrian master plan and bicycle master plan into a single comprehensive document, and the principles of environmental justice as it relates to active transportation are embodied there as well. Moving on to the housing element, we are in second year of housing element implementation for this cycle, the 2021 through 2029. As it relates to affordable housing, we've had several projects go through the process this year, or 2022. Three of those, Longview, 37th Avenue Permanent Supportive Housing, and a third one that escapes me at the moment, are in process right now. A more recent success story, though, is the San Juan Apartments. This is in the South Sacramento environmental justice community. We had partnered with Mutual Housing, who's the applicant there, and the city of Sacramento, interestingly enough, who a portion of this site is within the city of Sacramento's limits. We combine our efforts on a grant through Green Means Go to receive $2 million to fund off-site infrastructure that's necessary to make this project work. And that project is now going through the improvement plan and building plan review process. The third item here under affordable housing, these three projects, Anton Power Inn, Cornerstone, and Saybrook, all three of these have submitted for building permits, and we should see their construction taking off. I'm going to just briefly touch on RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, in the next slide, so I'll skip that for now. Under SB2, which was a funding source that we used to complete a number of zoning code and general plan design guidelines amendments, as well as our rezone program, that was initiated by the board, I think late 2021. In the last year, staff have conducted a number of public workshops, outreach in the community where rezone sites have been identified. Currently, the CEQA process is underway for the rezone program, and so we anticipate wrapping that up early next year. The amendments that were brought forward to the zoning code, general plan, and design guidelines, those were really about facilitating from a regulatory perspective, facilitating a variety of housing types, multifamily and supportive housing as well. And that work is ongoing in implementation now. So the regional housing needs allocation, these are just the numbers for the last couple of years. The second column here just shows the Cycle 6 RENA allocation for Sacramento County at the various income levels, and then our year 1, year 2 achievements. And I say that somewhat loosely because those are really significant numbers to achieve, and Sacramento County is not a builder. So we are dependent on the industry to build these units, and obviously we're doing what we can through our partnership with SHRA, for example, on the low and very low income levels to achieve some of these numbers. On a side note, I had heard last week that HCD is actually engaging in some outreach relative to the next cycle of the RENA process, and we are anticipating participating in that to give our feedback on how the allocations are developed at the state level and then subsequently passed on to SACOG. So,
excuse me, Todd.
Yes.
Supervisor Kennedy?
Thank you, Chair. Todd, I just want to kind of not correct you, but add to your. You're correct in that we are dependent upon outside developers to do these, but the county can and has play an important role in making those easier to accomplish. So we actually, do play a major role in that.
I agree with that.
Okay.
You were not wrong at all.
Thank you.
Well, as evidenced by the action we took this morning, because those Project Home Key, those will be added under extremely low income, right, Todd?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So this chart we bring out every year. It's we add to it as we go along. This is our implementation measure status report. Just a picture showing what's been accomplished on a number of the elements in terms of implementation. Green means those measures are complete. Yellow is some progress or ongoing. And then red indicates either no progress or if you get into the weeds of the report, it specifies that some of those implementation measures are no longer applicable. So for this last year, when I did this presentation back in March of last year, the board requested that we focus on the Delta protection element in 2022, which we did. And this one's a little bit unique in that there are no implementation measures like the other elements of the general plan. And that's because the Delta protection element is based on the Delta Protection Commission's land use and resource management plan, which is required by Public Resources Code. That's not to say that we don't implement the policies of the Delta protection element. We certainly do that on a project-by-project or case-by-case basis. And an example of that, excuse me, is our staff's work on the response to the Delta Conveyance Project's draft EIR. And when I say our staff, I don't mean just planning and environmental review. I'm referring to Department of Transportation, Water Resources, Regional Parks, the Ag Commissioner, and County Council. All of us together worked through that draft EIR, which was voluminous, to say the least, and put together a comprehensive response on behalf of Sacramento County. In addition to that, we have developed this applicant's guide for projects in the Delta. This is serving a couple of different points. First, it helps individual applicants as they're working on projects in that part of the county, helps them through the entitlement process, through the various regulatory programs at the state and federal level. Secondly, it assists in not just the applicants, but for staff in achieving consistency with the Delta protection element, making sure that we're running the appropriate projects through the Delta Protection Commission or the Stewardship Council, as the case may be. The second part of this slide just highlights a couple of implementation issues that we've identified over the years. One, as there's been a lot of staffing turnover in various departments, we have to increase our efforts to raise awareness of what the general plan is, what its content is. Second, the age of the general plan. It's been since 1993 that the general plan was comprehensively updated, and we are actively working on planning for the next update, which is due in 2030. That's the planning horizon of the current general plan. And thirdly, the size. A document that's been in progress, added to, et cetera, since 1993, has a lot of policies and implementation measures. At one point, I knew the number, but it has since fallen out of my brain. So next, I'm going to just touch on some of the growth strategies in the general plan, and there's really three ways that are identified here. First is, and foremost, is infill. This one is identified in the general plan as really a significant potential for new growth in the county, roughly anywhere from 19 to 37,000 units, depending on geography. And that's achieved through a couple of different ways. A couple examples here. Green Means Go, which I briefly touched on earlier on the San Juan Apartments project. We, Sacramento County, have received or have been our applications approved for two different categories. Category A, which is what the San Juan Apartments fell under, and Category B is planning funds, which the next presentation will focus on that. Second, Stockton Boulevard. This has been a collaborative approach between county staff and city staff because that corridor crosses both jurisdictions. We want to make sure that our land use planning and transportation planning is relatively consistent in that corridor. And then the third, infill program. This is a program that was set up in around 2008. It had been somewhat lacking in the subsequent years due to the economy. We are looking to reboot and reinvigorate that program. We are actively working on, to Supervisor Kennedy's point, different regulatory constraints that can be barriers to achieving what the county desires in the infill areas. And there's ongoing outreach happening as we speak. The second way we grow is in the approved growth areas. So think of the Vineyard community, the project that was a few moments ago here. Morvi South is one in those previously approved growth areas. An example of how we can facilitate that is the Vineyard, North Vineyard Station Specific Plan roadway improvement triggers. The board took action on that late last year to modify those triggers so that development would be financially feasible and the necessary infrastructure could be delivered. Real quickly, reporting on remaining capacity in those areas, the Florin Vineyard Community Plan, or the GAP as we call it, roughly 71% remaining capacity there, residential capacity. North Vineyard Station we're seeing a lot more build out there. 37% remaining there. And then Vineyard Springs Comprehensive Plan, about 34% there. Pending master plans is the next slide, or the next two slides. This one's the approved growth areas, all the individual units and their different categories, low, medium, high density. These are the aggregated numbers by plan area. And then the pending master plans is the next slide. So we have three remaining master plans that are going through the entitlement process right now per the general plan's growth management strategy as it relates to expanding the urban policy area. West Jackson is the final one in the Jackson Highway corridor, roughly 16,500 there. And then the two projects in Natomas, Grand Park and Upper West Side combined for 49,700 and change. For the next year, this is our work program. Just at a high level, we're looking at obviously continuing our work on the environmental justice element and its implementation across a variety of programs and projects. The community-wide climate action plan, I said earlier, our goal is to get that back in front of the board for adoption by the end of this year. The LEAP grant, Local Early Action Planning, two programs funded through that grant. The first is ADU construction plans. We are putting together three different sizes of ADUs, running a set of permit drawings through the building department so that we can have those at the ready to make a simplified process for anyone wishing to construct an ADU. A little bit of a setback on that one in that the new building code cycle happened, so we're making sure that we're consistent with that, but that should be done in short order. And then secondly, the by right supportive housing ordinance. This is amending the zoning code to make sure that supportive housing is allowed by right. It's a commitment we made through the housing element. Finally, the housing element implementation work, a couple of programs that are ongoing, the rezone program I mentioned earlier, and then the affordable housing ordinance. This slide says update. That is obviously dependent on the will of the board. The commitment made in the housing element was to look at the efficacy of that ordinance as it relates to producing a certain level of affordable housing. And so we expect to bring that back to the board before beginning any work in earnest on that. Finally, the infill program that I mentioned earlier, hopefully wrapping up at least the regulatory portion of that, but also engaging with some of our key stakeholders and throughout the community on potential sites. We want to see, we as planners, we know our communities, we want to see certain sites really transform the communities where they're located. So engaging in dialogue, not just amongst ourselves or with certain key development interests, but also going out in the community, hearing what they want to see in their places where they live.
And excuse me, Todd, obviously consultation with the supervisor that represents the area, of course. And in terms of that infill program, so you don't have it baked yet, the criteria you're going to use to identify the areas and the sites, or do you? What's your thinking? I won't completely pin you down, but.
Sure. So there's a couple of different ways that we think about infill. One is obviously in an urban area. We're looking at vacant, underutilized sites. We're looking at potential locations that have been, for example, aging commercial corridors. There are 14 of those we identified in the general plan. I've gone on tours with some people. I've had the ear of certain community members just to hear what they want to see at specific locations, or in some cases problem properties. Any combination of those would be great to something in terms of setting out a list of properties, a map of properties, certain constraints on properties. That's what we want to get to.
Okay. And I would just say, I know you and I have had a lot of conversations. I've had conversations with everybody, even Troy this afternoon, about this topic. I know you're relying on some of your own, obviously, experience and conversations you're having, but I'm certainly would love to host something with you, with different communities within my district anyway, to hear that community, feedback directly about what sites they see and have a big impact on their neighborhood and their community. So would be happy to have that follow-up conversation with you, maybe plan something.
Definitely, that sounds good. And that opportunity is available to any supervisor, as you said.
Thanks.
And then the last bullet on this slide, the general plan update, as I mentioned a few slides ago, we are looking at scoping that general plan update. It's obviously going to be a major effort. We are in no sense of, when I say scoping, I'm not talking about just running out and doing it. That will be a very thoughtful, very deliberate conversation before we formally initiate that effort. So this is, I think, my last slide. It is. Our recommendations. This is a receive and file, the 2022 annual report, and then direction to staff to submit this report to OPR, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and then the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And then finally directing staff to proceed with ongoing implementation, including those projects outlined in the work program.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. I don't see any supervisors queued up. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not.
Okay, no public comment. So I would entertain a motion. And I will, no, we have to provide direction to staff to submit the report, right? So we do need to vote on this, on the staff recommendation, correct?
Correct.
It's not, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Please
Sorry,
vote.
I didn't catch who the second was.
I seconded.
Oh, thank you. Unanimous vote.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Yay, we made it. Okay, item 35 is the North Watt Avenue Workshop on Advisory Services Panel Recommendations.
Okay. Todd will kick this one off too.
I will. Todd Smith, your planning director. Today, on this item, we are discussing this partnership between Sacramento County, SACOG staff, and the Urban Land Institute all of which are here to share in this presentation. First, I want to introduce the team. You know me, but Amy Lappin, from Urban Land Institute, James Corliss and Casey Lazan from SACOG. They will come here after I speak. I'm just doing a brief introduction of a few slides here. They're the ones who really helped us understand through the Advisory Services Panel the effort that's needed in the North Watt corridor. And so, as I just mentioned in the previous presentation, infill is prioritized in the county's general plan. And we believe there are significant potential through a number of sites in the unincorporated urban areas. The commercial corridors. North Watt is emblematic of this opportunity. And we think that infill development can help not just the county, but the region achieve its aggressive greenhouse gas reduction goals. And I'm personally excited about this opportunity, this partnership. It's been a number of months since we heard the final report over at SACOG, but this opportunity for the board to weigh in, I'm really excited about. So, with that, this slide just represents, excuse me. Yeah, that is the right slide. The challenges that we all know around infill areas in the Sacramento region, construction costs, transportation, and infrastructure issues, safety along some of the corridors, for example. On the regulatory side, we know CEQA can be a constraint. We know local opposition is a potential constraint. Zoning, parking requirements, the whole 9 yards. We're aware of all that. The bigger thing that we often don't talk about is the infrastructure, the below-the-ground utilities that aren't readily visible. And so Green Means Go, this program that SACOG developed and got funding approved from the state for this pilot program, was designed to address some of these challenges, but primarily the infrastructure, the water, the sewer upgrades that are necessary. This slide is just an example of some of the infill areas throughout the region. Obviously, you can see the concentration in Sacramento down towards the middle. And these are areas that are in the region with low VMT, vehicle miles traveled. And that translates to those greenhouse gases that I talked about a moment ago. And the principle here is pretty simple. By focusing on certain infill areas, we can leverage those existing assets that are in the community already and not put a strain on rural areas that may have infrastructure or not have infrastructure in place already. So boiling it down to Sacramento County, we have 5 adopted green zones that the board identified in November of 2020. We did this as an effort to show our support for Green Means Go back when the program was getting off the ground. We, as planning staff, developed these green zones specifically based on the known infill priorities of the county, the previous adoption of the county's environmental justice communities, and third, the previous planning work that had been completed. And the intent is really critical here in these green zones. It's to focus the investment on the priority areas, these 5 locations, so that we can prioritize our work. Because if we aren't focused, we are becoming spread too thin, both from just a work planning, et cetera, work effort, as well as a financial perspective. So a little bit of background about North Watt, and then I'll turn it over to Amy. So the North Watt Corridor Plan was adopted in 2012. It has the largest potential infill growth. It's also located in an environmental justice community. And when I say the largest, we're talking roughly 2,700 jobs and roughly 4,200 housing units. There's been some parallel efforts going on while this collaboration with SACOG and ULI has been happening, and that is pointing out what SAC-DOT is doing on the corridor. There was a Caltrans Sustainable Communities grant that was awarded in April of last year Our partners over at DOT are leading the transportation planning for the corridor, and that's primarily related to interaction with pedestrians and transit facilities needs running north to south. Second, planning applied for Agreements Go funding in the Category B that would potentially update the North Watt Avenue corridor plan. Because we knew that this effort was going on, we thought it was a great opportunity to take a second look from a regulatory perspective. And the SACOG board approved that application in March of 2023. And now I'd like to introduce Amy.
And Todd, while Amy's coming up, so the corridor is from Auburn Boulevard to how far north? What are the boundaries of it?
I will look that up.
Okay. But I do know that it traverses three supervisory districts too.
It does.
Right.
Thanks, Todd.
Move it forward.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Amy.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Desmond, Vice Chair Kennedy, and supervisors. My name is Amy Lappin. I'm a principal with the urban economics consulting firm Economic and Planning Systems. I also served over the last 2 years as the Technical Assistance Panel, or TAP, chair for ULI Sacramento. And as part of that role, I helped to organize the advisory services panel that evaluated the North Watt corridor, as well as a second corridor, the Folsom Central Business District. And the ASP took place last November over the course of a week and included a packed series of events, which encompassed site tours of both corridors, many dozens of interviews with public sector, community, nonprofit, and private sector stakeholders, and several intensive working sessions to derive the recommendations presented today. I want to note that while I participated in the organization of the ASP, I did not participate in the core activities that formulated the recommendations, including the stakeholder interviews and those intense working sessions. I also wanted to note that while the report focuses on both corridors, the material I'm presenting today only focuses on the North Watt corridor. So the concept of the advisory services panel began as the general topic of revitalizing underutilized commercial corridors continued to gain traction in planning and public policy circles. The focus of this revitalization was primarily to incentivize additional housing along these corridors. And the topic coincided really nicely with SACOG's Green Means Go program, as well as renewed planning efforts in many corridors in the Sacramento region, including the North Watt Avenue corridor. ULI Sacramento began conversations with SACOG, the ULI Terwilliger Center for Housing, and ULI National to invite a ULI Advisory Services panel to study the North Watt corridor, as well as the corridor in Folsom. The panel's assignment was to offer recommendations that could support the development of mixed income infill housing with the goal of creating vibrant, walkable, mixed income communities. In addition, the panelists' recommendations are intended to assist SACOG in allocating state planning and infrastructure funding to expedite housing production in designated green zones. A little bit of background about ULI Advisory Services panels. The program has been around for over 75 years, and ULI has overseen over 700 panels to help public agencies find creative and practical solutions for a range of complex real estate development and community-based topics. Each panel is composed of highly qualified professionals from around the nation. And in this case, we had a panel member from Toronto, so it's an international panel, who volunteered their time to ULI, and they're chosen based on their knowledge of the panel topic and are screened to ensure objectivity. This particular panel was chaired by Philip Payne, who runs a nonprofit in North Carolina dedicated to increasing the availability of housing for those experiencing homelessness. In addition, he has 3 decades of experience in developing workforce housing. The panel included 6 other professionals representing public and private sectors, all with planning, urban design, and public policy expertise related to housing and creating vibrant neighborhoods. So as the ASP sponsor, SACOG asked the panel to address a series of questions, including what kind of housing is feasible along the corridor given market conditions and zoning standards? What investments, including infrastructure, subsidies, or zoning updates, are needed to realize housing production? What policy, strategies, programs, and improvements can create a sense of place for the corridor? What actions can incentivize development, and how does this action plan address racial equity and ensure new development does not displace existing residents and businesses? In short, how can the public agencies expedite housing production along the corridors? So the next several slides provide an overview of the panel's high-level findings and present next steps regarding public policies, improving market conditions, opportunities to move forward through public and private partners, potential funding sources to pursue recommended actions. In addition, we'll cover the types of housing that could be accommodated on the corridor and summarize the short-term recommendations for the county. So leaders interviewed for the advisory services panel expressed a desire for safe, walkable, human-scale environments that are less automobile-oriented. However, the panel learned that there is neither a strong sense of community nor a unified vision for the corridor. Stakeholders indicated that there is minimal social infrastructure, a lack of funding, and a lack of housing diversity, including housing to accommodate intergenerational families. Thus, the first finding was to encourage the county and its partners to create a bold vision for the corridor, one that centers on creating vibrant, equitable, and walkable residential and mixed-use infill nodes, and includes collaboration between the county and community leaders, which will be critical in realizing change. The panel noted a number of infrastructure deficiencies: water, wastewater, stormwater drainage, electricity, and broadband, which are inhibiting development potential. Thus, the county should prioritize physical infrastructure improvements as well as building social infrastructure to support growth and new residential development. The corridor does not exhibit a strong identity, nor are there many areas that are aesthetically inviting. Starting small with temporary or seasonal placemaking activities, such as public art, street fairs, farmers markets, and other activities can help connect and engage the community. Larger actions should focus on more permanent art installations and landscaping elements that supplement the county's complete street improvements. Identifying appropriate sites and pursuing an affordable housing development in the corridor could be a catalyst for a wider range of housing investments. Could also offer an opportunity for younger families to enter the market in that area and take advantage of new and anticipated investments in the corridor. But even with the vision solidified, the corridor has a number of infrastructure and other market barriers that must be clearly identified and addressed to fulfill the vision. So here are a few recommended steps to take from a public policy perspective. So the first is to consider higher density zoning and form-based codes to accommodate development flexibility, increase housing feasibility, and create the kinds of places that attract and support community-serving retail. An important goal should be to offer a set of incentives and employ policies that reduce the cost of development to make projects more economically viable. Incentives may include initiatives such as leveraging publicly owned land for development projects, expediting development review and approval processes, reducing, deferring, or waiving development impact fees, and reducing parking minimums, or other initiatives that the county may want to consider. One challenge that the panel noted was the presence of multiple utility service providers that serve the corridor. So they offered a recommendation that the county engage with the different service providers and prepare a memorandum of understanding to clearly identify the roles, responsibilities, and timing of funding and constructing physical infrastructure improvements. From a market perspective, the north, what steps could be taken to improve market conditions? The panel learned that the North Watt corridor has multiple large vacant parcels and a host of underutilized parcels that could provide housing to support the employment concentration at McClellan Park or with access to the light rail station at the southern end of the corridor. There's still a need for quality housing to support the workers of McClellan Park that covers a range of incomes from lower income to moderate and market rate. And of course, drawing from other areas in Sacramento, not just McClellan Park. But there was good synergy there. The panel heard that vacant parcels are available for sale along the corridor at relatively low prices. If the county could identify resources, acquiring land and procuring developers for affordable housing development could catalyze other desired development opportunities. In addition, with vacant land available further north, the panel suggests exploring the feasibility of land swaps to allow for new housing construction away from the high traffic volumes of North Watt while still offering convenient light rail access. In particular, the county could lead a developer's solicitation process, creating a request for proposals process to proactively attract new development and design teams to publicly acquired land or other identified priority sites. Recommended steps to take from a partnership perspective include the fact that the panel observed a notable lack of clear community and social infrastructure. There were no booster groups or community development corporations or even organized cohesion across the faith-based community. Based on the panel interviews, the primary groups that have shown leadership in the past include Sacramento County staff, as well as the Black Child Legacy Project with Liberty Towers Church. This community group in particular should continue to be specifically engaged in the visioning and implementation process. Suggestions from stakeholders for other local partners include the North Highlands Chamber of Commerce, the 80 Watt District, the American River Community College, charter schools located in McClellan Park, and other local faith-based organizations. In addition, and importantly, the management and businesses in McClellan Park represent a great opportunity to not only bring more residential and commercial redevelopment opportunities, but also to act as boosters for the corridor and embrace and connect with other parts of the corridor. The reality is that no change or revitalization will occur without dedicated resources. Adequate funding is needed to see the project through from inception to completion, including community engagement, research and planning, implementation, ongoing maintenance, oversight and compliance, and other activities. Funding options for the study area include federal, state, and local opportunities. As Todd mentioned, the county is going to receive about $650,000 in funding for planning projects specifically in the corridor in the current round of Green Means Go funding. And the panel also recommended a variety of other federal and state sources, including funding from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the State of California's Infill Infrastructure Grant Program. Further, with the corridor's environmental justice status, they recommended exploring the state's Transformative Climate Communities Program, or TCC program, which funds community-led development and infrastructure projects and could be instrumental in helping to build community. Other potential funding strategies that were recommended in the report include pursuing a documented documentary transfer tax or other special parcel tax to fund land acquisition and related affordable housing financing, though such a strategy is resource intensive and requires a 2/3 majority vote. And then also an enhanced infrastructure financing district, or an EIFD, could also be considered, though it's recommended that the county first pursue a study to determine if the EIFD would generate sufficient funding. Finally, I wanted to mention that I personally, as part of my role at EPS, am involved in a couple of projects with other consultants for the county. One is the Stockton Boulevard SPA project, Special Planning Area project, and one is the infill program update. And as part of both of those, we've identified a number of challenges with building higher density housing, gaps in funding versus supportable rent, and then also just a broader range of funding options that the county could pursue to support community engagement, as well as infrastructure and vertical construction. And with that, I'm going to hand the presentation over to James, who will discuss housing typologies and recommended short-term actions.
Amy, before you leave, I've just a couple questions for you.
I was going to
Did you, so when you talk about the community organizations, couldn't agree more with you on Liberty Towers. They are really a centripetal force in that community, and one of very few, really. You're right, there isn't much, but did you engage or have any conversations with the 80-watt Property and Business Improvement District up there?
I don't believe so. So I did want to mention that there were, and I wasn't involved in the invitation and planned stakeholder meetings, but I do know that at a high level, many stakeholders were contacted, and a very small percentage actually accepted and met with the panel.
Okay. Yeah, because there are groups, it's difficult, inherently difficult to get the engagement in that part of the county, but there is a strong sense of identity up there, actually, in North Highlands, and I think people have probably over the years maybe kind of dropped out of that because they've just, I think, have felt ignored or neglected for an awful long time. But we started with Supervisor Cerna's leadership, and I've joined with him on creating a business watch up there at McClellan, and there's been a lot of participation by a lot of businesses around there. The North Highland, the chamber, it's an Antelope Highlands chamber. They don't do anything. They're just not involved. There's not much going on, and there's been efforts to create, Kiwanis Club didn't go anywhere. There was not any interest up there, but there is a Rotary Club up there as well. So, there are opportunities to engage with some groups, and I think that will be extremely important as we continue going down this path. And I'm looking at county staff as well.
Supervisor Desmond, I can respond to the 80-watt PBID question specifically. We did put together a pretty robust list of stakeholders that we knew of in the community. That included that PBID, as well as obviously McClellan Park, but Liberty Towers, and all the individual districts up there that we were aware of. But as Amy identified, we collectively, the group did not get a lot of success or responses.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Chair Desmond, Supervisors, good to see you this afternoon. I'm your cleanup hitter here. And much like Amy said, thank you. That's like I need all the help I can get. We were really delighted to be able to bring the Urban Land Institute to this corridor as part of the Green Means Go program. I was involved in the beginning and the end, not all the details. I'm going to be delivering the rest of this summary, so we'll do the best we can, and if we can't answer your questions up here, we'll certainly try to get them answered through a lot of the folks that were there on the ground throughout that week, and your staff probably has some great insight. So just, and in some ways building a lot on what Amy said, and again, I want to just start a little bit of high level. Delighted for the partnership with the county and your staff. Delighted for the partnership with ULI to come in and give almost a national, developer housing sense of this corridor. This is a challenging corridor, no doubt about it. But at the same time, and I think your staff said it really well, Todd up here earlier, if we can help this corridor, if we can see new economic development, new housing opportunities, this is the implementation of the region's long-range plan right here. This is the challenge, and this is the opportunity. So this is not going to be easy, but it is going to be taking a team effort. It's going to be taking your support, and however we can help, we're here to do that. So a couple of highlights I just want to touch on. What could the housing look like? And this is pretty interesting, which I think, we're not talking skyscrapers, but we are talking multifamily housing. We're talking 3-4 stories, stick-built 3-story construction, 4-story over central parking deck at larger sites tapering off, right? Clearly there's a lot of community engagement that has to happen around that, but in terms of the market demand, the panel and the experts really felt like there are sites in that corridor that could take that kind of density. And you're talking upwards of 100 units an acre on the market side, right? On the cost side, and back to Todd's slide earlier about all the constraints, I don't think it will surprise any of you that the panel also found this is one of those many corridors and many older commercial corridors in our region where construction costs at the moment are probably going to top out over, or sort of construction cost, will be over the for sale or for rent price, right? So you have a delta in the ability to actually make this construction cost feasible right now. Part of that delta is trying to get a lot of those other constraints taken care of and addressed. Infrastructure, water, sewer, right? This is, I believe a lot of this corridor is still on septic and still on wells. So drainage issues are huge, right? So some of those costs and some of those risks taken off the books will help. Obviously, you have a great track record and great relationships with a lot of affordable housing providers and senior housing providers. That was something else that the panel said to definitely take a look at. Talk a little bit about order of operations. So what do you do in the next couple of years to move this forward? I think your staff has a pretty darn good idea, and I'm really hopeful that the Green Means Go funding is a little bit that will help move this forward. Starting with the vision and community engagement, and Amy said this in terms of her, you clearly have a really good sense of who's there and who's active and who's engaged, but building on some of those partnerships, building on the McClellan partnerships, building on those, really important. You got champions on this corridor. Supervisor Frost knows this from Orangevale and the story that we were involved in and Greenback Lane, and that having a PBID, having champions is just really, really important. So that's obviously that's a key part of it. Amy also mentioned the number of special districts, right? The number of whether it's somebody as big as SMUD or Sac Suburban, all of the special districts. The question should be, what could we do collectively to make it easier to build development in these places? And I know we've had some initial conversations with a number of special districts around the region about looking at green zones and infill areas, and even within their current abilities and regulations, what can they do to basically incentivize infill development, these kinds of commercial corridors. We're going to be going to SMUD and talking to the SMUD board soon about this too, because as much as SMUD is a leader on green power, I think there's a lot perhaps that they can also do in terms of this kind of infill development and making this a little bit easier. So those special districts are something that we absolutely want to play a role with and a helpful role, because we want to make sure that they're good partners with you and the North Watt corridor. Something else that maybe is obvious to all of you as you think about your constituents and you talk to people, it is hard to take a corridor like North Watt and have anybody reimagine something different, right? And we can give them plans and we can give them aerial views and colored parcels on the map, but to actually say, what would it look like if bus rapid transit could come here one day? What would it look like if it felt safer? This is just image actually from our partners down in Southern California. They have a pretty cool little pilot program doing pop-up projects that last maybe a month, maybe a year, gives you a sense of what a calmer street would look like, gives you a sense of what dedicated bus lanes might look like. It gives you maybe even a sense of what an infill housing project might look like. We don't do enough, honestly, of this kind of placemaking, this kind of lean, pop-up, Let's test it out. Let's get people excited about it. Would love to work with you and your staff, both here in the county, really, but across the region. Even some of the arts organizations and, frankly, foundations that fund creative placemaking, I think, could get really excited about doing something on a corridor like North Watt. We've got to get people excited and got to get community residents engaged, students and high school students engaged. Because we can only go so far, kind of again showing the plans. It really getting people out and getting them excited at events is going to be an important thing. Let me just I remembered all my notes until that slide. Oh yeah, multifamily, right? So and Amy said this too, but just to emphasize that the panel really felt like trying to figure out some of the parcels, some of the willing landowners, and really going for a multifamily project. Like figure out what the place is, and again, the panel recommended that you could do at least 200 units. You could do something big with the right incentives, right landowner, right developer. You could try to target market rate development. This is where a lot of your feasibility and I think some of these next steps, right, really are. But something that will be transformative in the corridor. I was just talking to my staff about, we have so many corridors like North Watt maybe around the region. Folsom Boulevard's a great one. Stockton is another. If you've seen what's happened, and if you're on the RT board, I know you've had a lot of insight on this, the 65th Street light rail. That's the kind of transformation that had actually took years in the planning, but actually has now started moving pretty quickly. So getting that first early transformative project that people can see, right, they can get excited about, and that will actually move the market is really, really important.
Hey, James, let me interrupt you, Supervisor. Oh, you wait till the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, I'm just gonna hit on the points that were made earlier. That vision is key. Don't wait on the infrastructure. Actually, there was one thing I wanted to mention on the SMUD and the SAC Suburban and Regional Sand slide. We've got, and thanks to many of you on this panel, we've got the $34 million from the state of California to actually get a lot of the green means go up and running. That's a drop in the bucket. So we are desperately, if you're going back to cap, we're desperately trying to get more money from the EPA. This is a carbon reduction strategy right here in North Watt. This is an environmental justice strategy. So we need more money. We need more money for that infrastructure. So not waiting on that. I mean, doing the feasibility to understand what does it take to get off septic and wells, what's the infrastructure cost, and let's partner on going to try to get some of that stuff. The developers won't come in and want to build that right away. We've got to figure out a way to publicly fund that. We mentioned placemaking and landing a big multifamily project, and obviously you know this, being persistent and just sticking with it. So we think this is an excellent corridor, a great example of something that could be transformed. It needs a lot of love, it needs a lot of attention, it needs a lot of support, but we're happy to be here today as a partner in this, and really looking forward to helping however we can. So I think with that, that's what we've got from the recommendations.
All right, thank you, James. A couple supervisors in the queue, and all some comments as well. But before I forget, on cap to cap, as one of the supervisors who represents this area, please let me know if there's anything I can participate in, any advocacy efforts back there with regard specifically to programs and funding that would benefit us here in this corridor. Supervisor Frost.
Hi, James. Thank you both for coming. And I wanted to ask you, it seems like there's a disconnect, and the public process is so great. People come out and they do the visioning, but those are not the people who are planning who own the property necessarily, or who are have plans for projects. And it seems a lot of times like things are happening behind the scenes before we become aware, and then a developer will come to us wanting to make something work on a certain parcel, and we've seen this on North Watt, and even paused one project in hopes that we could figure out how he could work out his drive-through Popeyes. And the question I have is, it seems like this vision is so beautiful, and it would be so great if we could get either bring a group of people to that location, those corridors, one at a time, own the landowners, and just invite developers to a visioning, tour and workshop that would let them kind of give them an update on the plan for that corridor and let them run with their imagination. Are you already doing this? You look like you look like you're identifying with what I'm saying. But it seems like the people that really need to hear this are the people that can actually bring it, and that's the developers and the landowners who can rethink. And they won't start rethinking it unless they see this beautiful vision. And you almost have to see those pictures to say, wow, wouldn't that be cool if you could transform Watt Avenue into that? It would change the whole face of that side of the county. Just saying.
Yeah, I remember a bus tour down on Stockton Boulevard. I think Supervisor Kennedy was part of that, maybe 5 years ago. And it had developers, landowners, city, county, Sac Regional Transit, assembly members. It was, and we stopped at sites like, how about this? What could you imagine something different here, right? So I think there's no, I mean, Amy, you should step in here. You know better than I do, but there's no magic formula, right? You all know this, but
yeah.
Those kind of like the transformative project, that thing that you have to have the landowner, you have to have. And you've got to have the vision, right? You got to have your support as electeds and staff, and then you have to, as you say, I think, get some people in here who could be excited about, oh, wait, wow, these folks are lining up behind this. That sounds kind of interesting to me, right?
And there's actually parcels that are small that can't do necessarily, but they could if they partnered with the parcel next door, but how will they ever have that conversation,
Right. I think, James, you said it really well. I think the visioning process is multi-pronged. You have to involve your community, your residents, your existing residents, your existing businesses, your organizations in the area. But then, and they'll help you form that big picture vision and way to get there. But then you're right, you absolutely need to engage property owners, landowners, and one of the recommendations was to initiate a RFP process for developer solicitations. So once you've gone through and identified your highest priority parcels, through a series of discussions, through a bus tour. I was on that too, and it was a great opportunity to just really have a free flowing conversation about what's realistic here. But I do think that you need that broader community basis for what do we want this corridor to look like.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few takeaways here from the presentation. Thank you very much for being here. One is I saw the word stick with it. Wholeheartedly agree. I think that the road to planning hell is paved with variances and changes and alterations, and but it takes discipline, and it also takes realistic planning from the beginning, so that you don't start with something that's not marketable, something that can't be built, and then utopian planning, I call it, and then you end up with something that looks nothing like what you had originally planned. So it takes both ends. It takes the discipline to stick with it, but also to be realistic in our aspiration. Second point I'd like to make is, and I'm a bit of a broken record here, I apologize, but when you have limited vocabulary, you say the same thing again and again. And that's that, I recently had an opportunity to go to Denver and go on a kind of fact-finding mission to see what they did in the redevelopment of the Stapleton Airport. And one of the things that I walked away from, and this is more for our staff than for the two presenters here, one of the things that I walked away from was that I saw home builders' product that was something that the same national home builders we have here in Sacramento, and you don't see that product here. And part of that, and I did hear, I think, James, I know I heard the word incentives come out of your mouth, and we also, someone mentioned impact fees, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other things that we have to continue to look at how we can make it so that we're not pricing builders and developers. I mean, they're business people. They're going to have to make a profit. If we burden their projects to the degree that they can only sell it for a certain amount, which means that they give you inferior product, then we are predestined to have inferior product. So I do think that from a higher quality, longer term project that we can look at, projects throughout the county that we can look at, we got to continue to find ways that we can partner with these developers so that we can get better product than we're seeing today. Thanks.
I know that wasn't a question directed to us, but I just wanted to echo your thoughts. I was just in Denver last month. I participated on my own ASP, so I have some appreciation for what an intense process this panel went through. But I noted the same thing about the development typologies. There were attached products that were beautifully constructed that you just do not see here. And I had that same thought about how can our communities kind of incentivize that type of product, that type of attached product. And part of that is revisiting your zoning code and your design standards and making sure that you offer the flexibility that, if you're engaged in conversations with the developers, that could be something that's on the table.
Thank you. Our planning director, did you have a comment? Our planning director, okay. But I appreciate you bringing that up because I did not go to Denver, but I went on the trip to out in the suburbs of D.C. with SACOG last year, and that was a big takeaway of mine too. See these other housing products, even in the Bay Area. I mean, you don't have to go to Denver or D.C. to see a variety of these incredibly amazing, dense housing projects or products that are just great. And why can't we get some of that here? Okay, Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you both for coming and making this presentation. When you're dreaming big like this, it's a lot of fun just to imagine what can happen. And I, too, participated in a re-envisioning of aging commercial corridors, both with SACOG back east as well as with the city of Elk Grove. The unfortunate thing is I think that this particular corridor is going to be a pretty big lift. And not just because of sort of that there's not a lot of there already, but because when you think about the demand for a particular product or a particular density of living or a certain lifestyle, there are a couple neighborhoods already that are coming out of the gate and maybe have broken that cellophane that you referenced with the Highway 65 with the 65th Street light rail station. So when you think about the Broadway corridor and some of the reemergence that's happening there, and the North Oak Park corridor to the Med Center, and then the Highway 65 and Del Paso Heights, which has really good bones, but just hasn't found out how to put the there back in it. And so I think you're hitting on the right things in that it's going to take a pretty significant public capital investment, either in infrastructure, as has been mentioned, in public transit, and I know we've joked about bus rapid transit in this corridor, something that gets out in front of it and shows forecasts that this is a place where we're intending to make this investment. And then the last thing is what Supervisor Kennedy was just talking about with respect to making it more enticing for people to want to invest there. We can look at, certainly the fees or the incentives or things that are a literal cost. But the other thing is, and this was mentioned in the presentation, is in the flexibility. And so when we look, you called out form-based zoning as opposed to traditional Euclidean zoning. Another thing that had a brief moment of exploration was the idea of concentric zoning, where rather than getting into only this use in this type of zone, you go to, we're going to have this intensity of uses here, and it's going to get less intense as it goes out. Something that just builds it in so that hopefully from a staff level, get it in, get it out, get them on their way. Because that level of predictability If it's more complex and more review and more redlining, if I go do something over here, or I get guaranteed that, bang, I'm going to get on with my project over here, then that makes up for some of the complexity that I know that's going to happen from the actual built environment. So, there's a lot we need to do, but the biggest thing is kind of laying out something that's not just the same old, not just in a visioning, but also in how we do business. But it's fun to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hume. Well, I don't joke about BRT. I want to see BRT up there. And
We all do.
Sure, it'd be nice if the Board of Supervisors had a little more influence on that RT board. But anyway,
You should do something about that.
It kind of strikes me as kind of a tale of two base closures. You look at Mather and you look at what happened with being, surrounded by the city of Rancho Cordova and all the amazing things they've been able to do and around the old Mather Air Force Base, and you compare that to the areas around McClellan, and it couldn't be more different. And I don't know if that is because, I'm sure one reason is because it's in unincorporated areas, right, which are more of a challenge to begin with when it comes to municipal planning. In terms of let me ask you, you talked about the tapering off. And I'm assuming, as you get further away from the main corridor itself, what are you seeing in transformational areas where you have these aging commercial corridors, and you have some very, very distressed neighborhoods surrounding that corridor? Do you see a complementary kind of revitalization in the surrounding neighborhoods too when you invest along the corridor? Because I don't know, James, I know you and I drove through some of those neighborhoods and we drove around there. They're challenged.
I'll go ahead and respond to that first, and you can add. So I worked with the city of Sacramento on the Stockton Boulevard specific plan, and there were a lot of these same questions: aging corridor. Although there's some different dynamics on Stockton Boulevard. But we were very intentional about including policies that made sure that you don't displace residents and existing residents and businesses, that you are envisioning higher density development on vacant, underutilized parcels, but at the same time creating a counterbalance set of policies that protect the existing businesses and residents and existing home ownership, wealth generation.
Okay, thank you. I think about the large parcels up there, and I'm very familiar with that corridor. One very, very large parcel owned by another special district here, Sacramento Fire, very large there, which could be a catalyst area. I also wonder about the timing and opportunities with some other things we're doing. We have the Complete Streets project, and will that? And I kind of look more at our county staff as we are continuing with that project. Will we be doing things that are complementing this effort, or are we going to be kind of working in silos? Todd, you're smiling. I mean, usually I ask, does that make sense what I'm asking here? I don't want us to be doing something and making these investments with the Complete Streets project and then realize, that would have been great if we did this in conjunction with that.
I'm smiling because I don't build the roads.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, just to...
You're our planning director.
Yeah. It's been a long day. So we, obviously we coordinate with DOT on a regular basis, and we want to make sure that the Complete Streets project, which was, designed, developed in years past, is not going to adversely affect our moving forward vision for the corridor. I don't know offhand whether it will. I certainly hope not, but that's certainly something we can follow up with DOT on.
Okay.
And as I look through refresh myself on the recommendations here in the report, one of those is, dig once. Or something to that effect, so that if there's an opportunity to, and this is what we did on Fair Oaks Boulevard, for example, up in the Carmichael area, as there was a road project going through, there was also a parallel effort or same time effort to underground utilities, to upgrade the drainage infrastructure, et cetera. If there's going to be a significant reinvestment in the transportation infrastructure, to the extent that we have a dedicated BRT line, for example, that re-envisions that corridor, that's the opportunity to do the major infrastructure upgrades, the sewer, the water, the drainage.
Okay, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. As we, the design and construction, let's envision what would this look like. What do we need to incorporate into this if we wanted to accommodate a BRT lane, in future years, for instance. So, the other thing, I had a question for you. This area is definitely an area where we have made a lot of investments along the housing continuum in our response to homelessness. We have at the south end of this corridor, the city of Sacramento has a respite, and then we have a permanent supportive housing project at the courtyard, and then we have a very large safe stay community envisioned for that area just off Watt Avenue between Winona and Myrtle. How does that impact some of your discussions and your envisioning for this corridor?
I mean, I think it fits really well with a range of housing types for a range of different populations. I was on the site tour and saw the Project Home Key, as well as the social service providers that are along the corridor. I think that's essential for our unhoused population in this region to address. In addition, you need different types of housing to accommodate other populations.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're aware of what's going on
Yes.
and some of the activities that the county is doing up there,
That's
and the city, in that old science center off Auburn Boulevard. Okay, Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make one thing clear. Earlier, when I talked about discipline and I talked about stick to it, that wasn't necessarily aimed at planners, and that was aimed just as much as the elected officials in this region as anybody. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kennedy. Okay, well, I appreciate the discussion. I too am very interested in and I've talked to everybody in here, Todd, Dave, and Troy about bus tour and engaging with the development community to get ideas and show them opportunities. And I'm really happy that it is in proximity to there's 3 supervisorial districts. So hopefully we'll all 3 of us will be engaged. I'm sure we will be, and that'll help push things forward. Look forward to continued discussions. And please, James, don't forget to let me know about any cap-to-cap advocacy opportunities where I can join you and help out.
Chair,
Supervisor Hume.
Thank you. I apologize. I haven't turned the mic on instead of request to speak. I overlooked anytime we talk about Green Means Go that I want to advocate for the next time that we look at funding rounds and expanding our footprint, that we include the Rosemont area in the Green Means Go possibility. Thank you.
Okay, is this a receive and file? Do we have to take any action on that? No, this is just receive and file. So no action necessary. Any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, Amy, James, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, and we already did our nominations, and that
County
brings us to our
County Executive
county
comment.
exec comments.
I just would like to take a moment to wish Supervisor Frost happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, Supervisor Frost.
Happy birthday.
Okay, then I'll look to my, I know Supervisor Frost has an adjournment in memory. I'll look to my other counterparts to see if any comments from supervisors. Seeing none, Supervisor Frost.
Thank you, Chair Desmond. Today I would like to close in memory of Steve Miller. Steve was a longtime leader and friend in Sacramento County and a leader in Citrus Heights. I had the privilege of serving with Steve for several years on the City Council in Citrus Heights. He was born on May 22, 1958, and passed on March 25, 23. He was survived by his wife, Nanette, and 2 children and 6 beautiful grandchildren. We have all, I think many of us on the board here have served on different boards with Steve over the years. He served as the mayor and council member in Citrus Heights for 17 years, He had just retired in December and decided to jump from the fire into the frying pan into the fire by running for San Juan Unified School District Board, and he won. And I saw Steve just a couple days prior to his passing at the spaghetti feed in Citrus Heights, and he was so passionate and so excited about all the things he was going to accomplish on the school board and for Citrus Heights while serving there. We all have so many memories with Steve. We have parades. He was many times the judge at the Best Dressed Dog at the Halloween Festival in Citrus Heights. He was the guy who was flipping pancakes and cooking hot dogs at the community campout. He was a huge advocate also for the veterans. And, he died a few weeks ago. Our community had a celebration of life last weekend, and Supervisor Kennedy was also there. He made a beautiful tribute to Steve on behalf of the RT board. I think there were probably at least a couple hundred people there, which is a tribute to how many people loved Steve. He was just a nice guy, even when we were having tense conversations around policy. He knew how to communicate in a way that was kind, and he was a good man. So he was a great leader, and we are all going to miss him, and our hearts go out to Steve's family during this time, and I just want to say may he rest in eternal peace and ask if we can close in memory of Steve.
Thank you, Supervisor Frost. And with that, we will adjourn in memory of Steve Miller.